only smoked one bowl of marijuana, so we're good. I'm going to be a lot more level-headed today.
Russ is like, what did I sign up for? Yeah, well,
Hey, well, wait. Coop was wasted on his own stuff.
Yeah, but that was prescription shit.
Prescription meds aren't
legal.
The same.
It's all legal, though.
Follow the directions.
It's not legal where Russ and I live, but it's legal,
okay. I got you.
Russ is one of those sticks in the mud that's never done that, so whatever.
Really, Russ?
Yeah, really.
Is it just because you've heard a lot of bad things about it, or you just don't have any desire to partake?
It's a combination of things. I don't have the desire to partake. It could have cost me my job and career if I'd gotten caught. I simply have.
See you, bro.
It just does not appeal to me in the least. But you do you. It's not my place to judge. You do you, and I will silently judge you for it.
I'm used to that. Don't worry, it's fine.
He's got fought for your freedom.
Russ's idea of experimentation is putting a little bit of whipped cream on his banana split on a wild night. So that gives you an idea.
Bananas are bad. We don't add bananas to dessert.
Wait, whoa. What about a banana split?
Ice cream, whipped cream, syrup. That's about all you need. Why would you ruin it with that other garbage?
Oh my God, so true to form, syrup. All right, she wants to start recording, I'm sure, so we shut up.
She's already recording.
We're already recording.
Good podcast.
We're recording now.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. We usually
sorry guys.
It's okay. We usually go live and then kind of dick around for a minute or two before we get started.
Wait, syrup. You don't actually go like bougie and get actual, German chocolate and melt it down and then put that over your dessert?
No, because I'm not quite that high class. So I'm thinking more, the Hershey's dark chocolate syrup or caramel syrup, that kind of stuff.
Bro, you're killing me right now, man.
Oh well.
Going for the Hershey. Oh man.
It's cheap, it's plentiful, and I like it.
It's like a fairy tale, the two grumpy bastards and the endless ranters getting together so far.
I can deal with both. I've got Hershey's chocolate syrup in the fridge, so like that on vanilla ice cream is just fine for me. But I can also
on vanilla ice cream. Wow, you can like go out and paint the town beige.
That's right. Oh, okay. You're judging me now.
Hey, have you guys? This is what I love to do this because I grew up in a household where we always had homemade jams and jellies and all that. So good vanilla ice cream, really good crunchy peanut butter, and a really, really delicious raspberry jam mix. Oh my, heaven.
Sounds good.
Oh, God,
that sounds
really good. Never even thought about that.
Coop, just when I thought I knew you. Have you ever heard Lewis Black read the letter that he got about crunchy peanut butter?
I don't want to. No,
you should. If you get the chance, you should see it. It's hysterical. I can't do it justice as he talks about crunchy peanut butter is not peanut butter. It's a work in progress. He does a whole thing on it. Go YouTube it sometime. It's hysterical. Plus, Lewis Black is one of my favorite comedians of all time.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense that Russ is one of favorite is Lewis Black. Yeah.
Doesn't it though?
I actually got to meet him in Iraq. Him and Robin Williams and a pre-disgrace Lance Armstrong came by and did a show for us in Baghdad.
All right, hold up. I understand Robin Williams and Lewis Black. How does the cyclist entertain the troops in Baghdad?
He was like the MC introducing. He was the MC introducing the acts.
Gotcha. Okay.
Did you get to touch his calves? Like take a tape measure?
I was going to say.
But I did get to touch Robin Williams' shoulders. He was at the end. We were all taking a group picture, and so I just patted him on the shoulder and said, "Good job, man." And he said, "Whoa, don't get Mr. Happy going."
That's awesome, dude.
Lance Armstrong got ripped. He got screwed because he was basically got caught because he was cheating, but he was just the best at it, and all the other guys that sucked at cheating.
Everybody was cheating.
Yeah, they sucked at cheating, and they were upset that he was so good at it.
Well, no, the reason they went after him was because he was an American. If he'd been a Frenchman and been cheating, they wouldn't have given a shit.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well,
I think it's the same. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna make an analogy of that to like the Harvey Weinstein and Hollywood, like sleeping your way to the top, and like that's the only way to go about it. And I don't know. Sorry, it was a conversation I had last weekend with my family, but it reminded me.
Because you're so closely entangled to Harvey Weinstein and Hollywood, you know?
Yeah, talk about another guy that got screwed.
Well-
that guy was a real. No, I'm just kidding. He was the Lance Armstrong of Hollywood producers.
Hollywood. You guys ready to do this then?
Yes. Yes. All right. We can start whenever.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Good day, Endless Ranters. Welcome to episode 64 of your Endless Ranters podcast. We're here for another special daytime edition of ERP. My name is Chris, and I'm one of your hosts today. The rest of the lineup are the lovely and talented Jane. Hi there.
Hello.
Jane.
Hello.
And the one and only Mole Man, producer Manny. What's up?
Hey. How's it going,
Hey,
everybody?
hey.
Happy Mother's Day.
Good. So today is a special crossover podcast with our friends Coop and Russ. They've created the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast, which is available on all your favorite, wherever you get podcasts, just search it. This is not hard to figure out anymore. So we're going to talk to them in a little bit about, how their show came to be, what it's about. I'm sure we'll get into that. And then hear from them because to hear their Adam Carolla origin story, to see how they became fans of the Ace Man, because ultimately that's why we're all talking to each other today, because that's how we met, through the Adam Carolla podcast Facebook group. Speaking of that, we have some quick business. We have a Facebook group we'd like you to join. It's called, or just search for Endless Ranters Podcast on Facebook and join up. It's free. It's a free Facebook group. All the other ones are charging you. And then also, we'd like you to suggest topics, guest suggestions, whatnot. And then also that's where we announce our bi-weekly or bi-monthly. I don't know, we figured that out. But every 2 weeks, we have a happy hours Zoom gathering that we host on Friday nights, starting usually about
Bi-weekly.
bi-weekly. Or is that, I don't know, that might mean twice a week. Every 2 weeks is what it is.
No,
Y'all sound like you've been watching the scene and tag a little bit too often when the guy's wondering bi-weekly meaning twice a week and every other week.
So there's
I
semi.
know.
Yeah. It's either semi or bi.
Yeah. Everybody will figure it out. Or they'll
I'm
be-
just weekly.
I think it's bi, because I know I looked up semi-decennial would mean twice a decade. So
Oh, that's a lot.
semi-monthly
Yeah,
would be twice a month.
I'm
So
gonna say
semi-monthly
every
or
2 weeks.
bi-weekly.
I'm going to say every 2 weeks from now on and stop this
All right, cool.
controversy. Uh,
Stop these shenanigans.
Yep. You can also check out our YouTube channel. You may be watching live right now. We're streaming this episode, catch past shows and get the notifications for when we go live in the future, usually every Wednesday or Thursday nights. And then also, folks, join the chat in the YouTube, and we're kind of reading those as we're going along. And it's always fun to read comments while we're spinning. Instagram, Endless Ranters Podcast, and Twitter at Endless Ranters. I think that's it. We got Mole Man has got How We Figure podcasts, and his Twitter is at How We Figure. Right? I got that right.
Yep.
But that's it. And then let's introduce our guests. You heard a couple of them there. We got Coop and Russ. What's up, guys?
Howdy.
Hey, pleasure
Hey,
to be here with
guys.
you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us. Everybody, just a reminder, about a few weeks ago, Jane and I visited their podcast. Again, Two Grumpy Bastards. Wherever you listen to podcasts, go get it. And had a great time. Felt like we were on for like a half hour. It was more like 2. We just kind of really
It was
went with
meant
the
to be-
flow. And
It was meant to be like 30 minutes and ended up to like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
yeah, so that was a great time. So we're happy to have them back with us, and so you guys can hear their stories. Do you guys, before we get into some of the questions, do you guys have social media handles that you want to shout out?
Yeah, we're still building that. We're a relatively new podcast, but we are on Twitter. I would love some follows on there. I think we've already been shadow banned for the memes I put out.
Memes, I'm there.
Yeah, on Twitter, we are Two Grumpy Bastards, but with the number 2, because that's the way I had to do it to fit it all in. So Two Grumpy Bastards. We are on Instagram, so we're building kind of a good following on Instagram. It's Two Grumpy Bastards again on Instagram, real easy. all one word, or Two Grumpy Bastards. That's where we're at so far. We're this week I'm going to be rolling out Facebook, and hopefully, after talking to some experts like yourself, a YouTube channel as well.
So is it the number 2 Grumpy Bastards on both of those platforms?
No, it's not, which is inconsistent, and I realize,
Okay,
but it's
that's
just the
normal.
rules of both. So it's 2, the numeral 2 on Twitter, 2 Grumpy Bastards, and on Instagram it is the word TWO Grumpy Bastards.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
you can get a hold of us on Gmail at 2grumpybastards@gmail, of course,
With the letters TWO.
with the letters.
Yeah, that's normal these days
Sorry about
because
the
all the
confusion.
handles are taken and you got to get creative.
Yeah.
so.
Ours aren't consistent either. Like some
Yeah.
have podcasts at the end, some don't. So
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, you're also a fan of Comfortably Smug. I like that. I like that Twitter account. And
That is funny.
Thomas Sowell, the conservative writer, thinker, philosopher. He's great. Okay, good stuff. Yeah, I think we have
I
a lot of
believe we
stuff
also
in common
follow
there.
Boobs and Guns, if I remember correctly.
Nice. Well, who doesn't? That's Jane's favorite account.
Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
She never shuts up about that account.
And now she's like, "Did you see what they said on Boobs and Guns?"
I am
Uh,
curious now. I might have to follow. I'm
guess I'm gonna-
intrigued.
So, oh yeah, you're intrigued. Okay, well, what are you intrigued
That was like
about?
an
Let's
insight
talk
to the
about
male
this.
brain, right? This is what I'm intrigued by. So
Here's an insight
Yes.
to the male brain. From the age of 12 until the age of 80, it's all about, I want to see something naked and I'd like a beer. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, I always say that there's just no you can study us all you want. You will never understand the depths of depravity. Never. It'll
Yeah.
never.
There's actually a pretty good video out there on YouTube by the guy, I think his name is Mark Gungan, where he does the difference between male brains and female brains. And it's pretty insightful. He talks about female brains being a series of overlapping wires that are all touching each other, and how the male brain is nothing but a series of boxes. And we want to think about something, we go to that box, pull it out, carefully open it,
Okay.
making sure we don't touch the
Compartments.
other box and putting it back.
Compartmentalizing. Yeah.
And the
Okay.
best box in our brain is the nothing box. And if a guy has a chance, he will go to his nothing box every chance he gets.
Yeah, I definitely have. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. All right. So I'm going to go to quickly to our YouTube, just in case anybody is chiming in or anything like that.
we got 2 watching, and I think one of them's me.
Oh,
And
Monkey's uncle.
Yeah.
Oh,
Put a
wait.
comment up there, Jane.
What?
Put a comment up there.
Yeah, I'm
I
watching
did.
now.
I'm trying to interact as I participate here. So
Oh, Monkey's
Uh,
uncle was listening to the Lance Armstrong talk. Yeah, and agrees
Oh, okay.
agrees with us. Also says Jane's looking very zesty today.
yeah,
Settle down, Monkey's
I'm
uncle.
gonna put my
I
glasses
moved
on.
my desk in front of the window again because I bought a keyboard, which you can, if you're, for those of you, on the podcast here, you can see. So
Like a
just
piano
set up.
keyboard.
So yeah.
Piano keyboard, not a.
What else is there?
Oh, okay.
You said that last night, and I
Oh.
was like, "Why are you telling me you got a new keyboard for your computer?" That's really okay.
Oh,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
we knew you were nerdy and stuff. But, wow.
no.
It's got a number pad on the side. It's got
Full
the
RGB
Yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. So
Should we get moving on? Maybe have Coop and Russ tell us about their history a little bit and how they.
Yeah.
We'll start with the Corolla history here and kind of move our way forward.
Yeah. So what's the first question, Jane? Where we usually start with?
Yeah. So just the basics, like how did you come to find ACS and when did you start to listen? So I know Coop, you've been a fan for a while. So and then Russ,
Yeah,
I think maybe
since-
you kind of tag along to Coop if I'm
Extent, but I the first thing I remember seeing Corolla in was back, and maybe he and Kimmel are still buddies, but back when they were doing the Man Show and they
Okay.
were out on the street asking people to sign a petition to end women's suffrage.
Classic.
That's the first thing I really remember Corolla in. And then I saw him. I just seen him off and on throughout the years. The most recent thing I think I saw him on was the Ben Shapiro Sunday special, where he was talking to Shapiro about some stuff. But I like Corolla a lot. He's very dry, which kind of mirrors my own personality somewhat. Now, unlike me, he doesn't seem to get excitable about a lot of stuff, but I like the dry, just kind of, off the wall wit and trying to, for lack of better phrasing, demonstrate people being stupid because they don't really understand stuff.
Yeah. Russ does. Getting to know Russ. Yeah. He likes to start fires on Facebook. Yeah. Just put out some proclamations and just watch the town burn. Yeah. See how many people he can upset.
Well, I'm very Sheldon-esque about stuff. I'm like, you know what? People don't need to cry unless they're stupid. For example, I cry because so many people are stupid.
I'm gonna have to think about that one for a while.
You're giving stupid people too much power by breaking down and crying. You shouldn't do that.
Well, I don't actually
Sure.
cry. I more laugh at them. But
Yeah.
you can ask Coop. My biggest problem with the human race is that most people are not very bright, and they react with emotion on so much stuff because it's easier to feel your way through stuff than to think your way through it. Of course, it's also easier to shit your pants than it is to use a toilet, and that doesn't make it right either.
I think if people could just examine their initial reactions to things and ask like, why did I, and then just take 30 seconds to examine their reaction and question themselves a little bit, then they might get brighter. They would get brighter, I think.
As long as we're wishing, I'd kind of like to have a pony.
Yeah. Well, and then because it's just, people go on their first reaction, they take their knee-jerk reaction as gospel to themselves. Like, it's just, this made me feel right away. So that is it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, well, maybe examine a little bit. Anyway, so you first started listening to Adam Carolla. You saw Adam for the first time when him and Jimmy were doing the Man Show and all those hilarious bits they did on that show. How about you, Coop? When's the first time you remember hearing Adam Carolla's nasally drone?
It was Loveline.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely Loveline. It was on late up here at night. And believe it or not, if you folks knew my dad, he was a millwright in a sawmill and would drive home, and he is like the last person in the world to ever listen to something like that. As old school as old. He's so old school that the old school quoted him a lot in their curriculum. But he actually said, "Yeah, there's a pretty funny guy and some doctor that talk about fucking. You should listen."
Well, that sums it up. He sounds like a very succinct person.
And believe it or not, it was a referral from my dad, who his musical tastes ranged from Slim Whitman to Slim Whitman, so he didn't exactly have a lot of range.
That's a first for us with all the guests we've spoken to. Yeah,
hell of an endorsement.
We've had a lot of friends.
I got hooked on him there, and then followed him into his radio career, of course. And I remember listening with. I was stationed stateside when CONUS, when he and the whole Danny Bonaducci thing blew up and he didn't show up for work. And I was a big fan of Teresa Strasser as well. My ex used to watch that show that she was on HGTV and thought she was hilarious. So that got me hooked. And then Man Show. And then when he went to potting, I was there right away because I was listening to some podcasts from a local sports radio station, a broadcaster that I really liked that I didn't get a chance to listen to his show. And that was in the very early days of pods. They would just kind of record it and put it on their webpage. And then when I heard he was going solo, I think I listened to his very first podcast, to be honest with you. So I've been there from day one.
Yeah, he's the godfather of podcasting.
Yeah. Are you guys about the same age range, the two of you?
Russ is a bit younger.
By about 3 years, Coop? You've
4 years, something like that.
You broached the half-century mark, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a few months ago, I sure did.
Okay.
So where were you?
Not quite there yet.
Yeah, I'm next year will be my 50. So where were you? Like, what age range were you when you started hearing Loveline? So you're in the truck, you're in the car.
You're kind of.
I assume it was a truck. Your dad drove a truck.
Sounds like you were a little old for Loveline, weren't you? Well, you weren't a teenager.
Oh no, I definitely wasn't a teenager, but
act like it.
I really liked, and a full disclosure, I'm a medical school dropout. I went to 2 years of medical school at the University of Washington, decided I hated it, and have kind of kept up with that. And I actually thought Drew Pinsky was kind of an idiot at first, and it took a while because I was like, no, he's not, whatever. But then I kind of grew to like him, and I loved the common sense kind of blue collar approach, kind of the stoic approach that Carolla brought to counterbalance Drew's, kind of softy kind of approach to things. And it was a great interaction between those two. So I would guess I was in my 30s, I'm sure, or something when Loveline was at its heyday, I would guess.
Okay. I was just curious because we've had other guests that come on and then they're sneaking Loveline, in their transistor radio in the bedroom, late at night, listening to all the kids' problems and stuff. So just curious. All right, cool. I'm all right, Jane, I'm gonna need you to help me out. I'm kind of lost here. I was thinking.
Oh yeah, we can go on. Let's see. Next question. So what got you hooked and made you a daily listener? So Coop, I think you're more daily listener than Russ. So we'll start with you.
Yeah, good question. I can't say that I love every podcast, but there's such a history that I have listening to him at different times in my life, good, bad, and ugly, that it's just become it's more of a habit and kind of soothing. It's like my morning routine when I get up and like Jordan Peterson says, make your damn bed. It's almost become a prerequisite for my day, part of my structure. And if I don't catch his episodes, if like when I was in the hospital for a few days, I go back and listen to all of them anyway. And I have a lot of time since I'm semi-retired and I hike a lot and I drive a lot. So I don't know. I think it's become habit more than anything else.
But what hooked you? What about him hooked you?
Oh, there are so many characteristics of him that people around me say, Jesus Christ, that sounds just like Adam Carolla. He's very common sense. He's not always right. I don't agree with everything about him. For one thing, fuck him thinking Journey isn't an awesome band. But just his
a lot of hardcore fans take issue with his taste in music. That's what I've gathered.
Absolutely. Well, that's part of the fun too, is like I try to find where he's wrong. I'm a fairly intelligent human being, so I kind of try to find the faults in his logic. And for somebody who's not classically educated, he's brilliant. He has a very good grasp of traditional logic, critical thinking, critical reasoning, and he's funny as shit. His off-the-cuff comments are some of the most brilliant in history of any comedian I've ever listened to. So he's got that beautiful balance of stoic kind of angry guy and just ridiculously intelligently funny.
Yeah, I think I listen because even when things happen in the news, I want to hear what he has to say. Like that's kind of like a sounding board, or I wonder what his take's going to be on it. And you try to you kind of think but you can be surprised often. So yeah.
Yeah, he has an innate talent, I would say, that you can't teach, and that's what makes him appealing because you can't find that anywhere else. Yeah, absolutely. Russ, go on.
I like how he's able to cut through stuff. It's not necessarily intended as a burn, but it comes off that way because so few people have common sense and are just willing to say shit. So the fact that he cuts through stuff, and when he cuts through it, it's like, oh yeah, I should have thought about that. Now I feel really stupid not thinking about it that way. I just my personality, I really appreciate that because I like people who can put sense into the world and understand that, being smart doesn't necessarily come from a cute piece of paper you put on your wall. It comes from actually thinking and being able to analyze. And I think that he does that quite well.
Yeah, it's a world we live in now that is made so complicated by all the emotions swirling around, and he still is able to just get down to maybe oversimplistic sometimes, but breaks it down to the simplest elements. And I appreciate that a lot.
I also think that he benefits from the fact that so many folks out there aren't able to do that. If there were more people out there that were, more common sense, more cut to the chase kind of folks, he obviously wouldn't have an audience. But because that, for lack of a better word, demographic market is so underserved by most of the things in the culture, he's able to gather such a large following because people are hungry for it, because they see the stupidity elsewhere, and they say, hey, here's someone who, whether I agree with them or not, you never have to wonder about it. And he's rooting his stuff in common sense.
I think to his fans, and we'll move on, but his fans, there's like kind of an idea that his fans are all just followers of his cult or something like that. But his fans are always trying to find fault in his logic, like always. Like that's just his fans are very contrarian, I think, that are always trying to, see where he's wrong. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
To the point where it gets tedious sometimes on the Adam Carolla
in the Facebook group.
It sometimes just gets effing tedious. It's like, is that what you do? You sit around all day and try to find one minuscule hole. And what was the one I read today about? He wasn't. When he talks about history, he didn't know exactly what the Maginot Line. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Like he didn't know how to spell it, as if Google doesn't just spell that shit out for you if someone's trying.
I taught military history at the college level for several years. That's Russ and I worked together. And he got it pretty close for a layman. Who cares? The point was made. The point was made.
Is it Maginot or Maginot or what is it?
I always said Maginot because I don't do that. I don't do that frilly French shit.
Well,
Is that
okay,
the-
I do the frilly French shit, just so you know, because we do go off on a very brief tangent. Back in junior high school and high school, I made the mistake of taking 6 years of French. And the only reason I did that was because everyone else was taking Spanish and I wanted to be different. And I said, hey, Spanish, I'm never going to
Yeah,
need that in the
yeah, that's
United
true.
States like a dumb shit. And so that's why I know that, it's Maginot Line. I understand the
Maginot,
French
okay.
stuff. I can read French better than I can speak it, but yeah. So I've done the frilly French shit just because I was dumb as a teenager.
Okay, say croissant. Quick, right now.
Croissant.
Oh.
Oh, that's definitely a French
Damn.
Eastman.
I just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
Croissandwich.
follow-up.
It's pronounced
Croissant.
croissandwich.
Why don't you just call it a bun?
Croissant.
Crescent shaped
Croissant.
bread.
That's how we
Yeah.
say it. I'm always
All right.
impressed with Adam's his history knowledge and his vocabulary, given how horrible of a student he said he was. Like he somehow absorbed all that on his own time. So
If he'd had any
True.
teachers worth of shit, he probably would have been a valedictorian. He's got that sharp of a mind, just naturally.
Yeah.
except he couldn't really
that's
read.
That's an interesting idea that we might have to get into on another episode, where it's like, what if Adam had great teachers, and what if he was sent to private schools and had a full ride to wherever, like what would
Or
he be-
how about what if Adam were a millennial? Like what if he had been born in a
You just
millennial
broke my
era?
brain. I don't even know that I can envision that.
Tough one.
I know, right? I have
Wearing
no
lots of
idea.
wearing scarves all the time. and-
Growing up in the internet age. Yeah.
I can't envision it either. I can't. Cognitive dissonance.
And you have to give him the same parents, which is a little, I'm saying like you can't move the parents up. You have to have the same parents.
It's like trying to envision Abraham Lincoln driving a Porsche. It's just not.
Yeah.
All right.
right,
So
well-
do you guys have, sorry, Jane, go ahead.
No, go on. Were you going to move?
I was
Yeah.
going to say, is there a favorite Adam rant that, that just would be the first one you tell your friends about or something like that? Or just an opinion, like a favorite bit, rant, opinion that, would kind of jump to the top for you guys?
Oh, yeah, I think, there's so many. And matter of fact, the what did they just call when he did the big dance competition, the rant,
March Madness or rant?
March, yeah,
Oh,
whatever. it
March
was.
What they
Madness
call it.
Madness. March
Okay,
Madness
there you go.
Madness.
March Madness, yeah, where it was his rant versus his rants. I thought that was actually a brilliant bit. I enjoyed that a lot.
I did too.
His rant, one of his mainstays, and I never get tired of hearing it because I feel exactly the same way, is how we've turned into, especially males, and we talked about it in our crossover past, have turned into pussies, pacifists, and cowards in our society. I love it when he goes off on that because I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I've had some really great experiences with millennials and a lot of their age groups, and I know Russ has too, as our former profession of knowing, that's not dead out there, but he's so largely correct, and it's so prescient. He wrote that book in what was it in 10 years? Well, was it 10 years? We'll all be
50.
chicks?
50.
50.
It
I'm
happened
sorry.
in 10 years.
And
but
he
it
said
was-
that's right.
yeah.
He said we missed it by about 40 years. He was wrong by about 40 years.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorites. And then just the general incompetence of politics, both in his state and at the national level. He's really good at picking those details out and going off on them. So those two stick out for me.
How about you, Russ?
I don't know if there's anything in particular. I like where he's basically said something along the lines of, the country's founded on the principle, if you're not hurting anyone, you're not screwing with someone else's stuff, and you're paying your taxes, just go do what you want. I really think that's a great philosophy. Basically, don't hurt anyone, don't steal anything, and then you should be able to do what you want without anybody, fucking with you.
Yeah.
That resonates to me very highly.
Yeah, because we're getting so far away from that, so far away from freedom. Freedom. Like we have just no, like that's just almost a meaningless word today in our society in the U.S. That
That's because people have their own definitions. One of the things that used to get to me was, I remember back when the Twin Towers were brought down, and people pointed out that some of the folks attacking us hated us for our freedom, and folks try to jump in. Nobody hates freedom. That's stupid. And then I'd point out to them, okay, look, if the you think that you should be able to go to any church you want to, or not have to go to a church. They think that's evil and they hate it. You
Yeah.
think that men and women should be able to live up to the fullest of their potential. They think women should be subservient, so they hate that part of your freedom. You think that you should be able to vote on your leaders. They think that leaders should come from religious sects and be religious scholars, so they hate you for your freedom on that. So when you think about the practical aspects of your freedom, there are people that do hate it, but because people don't understand, they equate freedom with whatever I like as opposed to what freedom really is.
Yeah. Where everybody's very quick, or not everybody, of course, but the loudmouth left is very quick to infringe upon other people's freedoms when it bothers them, basically. So
and they think they're doing it for your own good. That's where it gets a tyrant who knows he's oppressing you. That's easy to oppose and defeat. But someone who thinks they're doing it for your own good, kind of like an evil Mr. Rogers, that's harder because they're not burdened by their own conscience.
I feel like conservatives used to have a past of also trying to infringe upon others' freedoms, but have maybe come to the light a little bit because now that the lefties are really, going whole hog on here are all the things you're not allowed to do, that conservatives have kind of said, you know what? Yeah.
Well,
we need to get back to that more, and not, because it was, the family values and you have to do this and this is unacceptable.
Part of that came down to the fact that, when you had the fundamentalist preachers trying to ban books and movies and not let you dance in Footloose or whatever. I mean, the mainstream society recognized that as insane and opposed it. I mean, those kinds of folks got laughed at. They were opposed very strongly, and they were easy to defeat because they were opposed so strongly. Now, because this coming from the left has gotten ingrained in society, they don't understand. They're just the flip side of that coin.
Yeah.
Right.
Kevin Bacon's character in Footloose, really, there should be a shrine to that character, because he really, he changed the world.
In my heart. There is in my heart.
Yeah.
I always say there's always going to be fringe. And I think you can equate those, the Bible thumper pastors in that realm. But now what scares me is when things are going mainstream against freedom. So
yeah,
and I think that's where we're heading. And I find that much scarier. Like even, I mean, mass shooters too, like that's such a fringe issue. Like they're outliers, but now we're seeing people that aren't outliers kind of shifting to like not a good place. And people are just kind of not standing up against it to the numbers that I would prefer to see. So
I think you're on the money. I think you're on the money, Jane. We talk a lot about it on Two Grumpy Bastards, kind of in our wheelhouse to talk about this. Me being a fairly dyed-in-the-wool libertarian, and I'm not a Republican. I left that a long time ago because of what I perceived as, Pat Robertson standing up during the convention and talking about homosexuals and all this stuff that should have stayed out of politics forever, in my opinion. Yeah. But you're right. That's always been fringy. Anybody that I know or I respect doesn't feel any of those things. But what I've always hated about that kind of leftist thought that's now become the mainstream of the Democratic Party, and it has. I mean, you've got a president that's supporting this radical agenda, and his vice president, hairball. But it's become mainstream, and their entire philosophy is rooted in hypocrisy. We talked about Senator Scott and the racism he faced over the backlash of being a black man and giving the rebuttal about talking about it wasn't a racist country, and the racist crap that he got, the sheer hypocrisy of it. That's now mainstream. And it's always been a hypocritical philosophy. Like, anybody that knows critical thinking knows if you start with a false premise, it'll only be an accident if your conclusion is correct.
Wasn't that crazy? That because the responses on Twitter towards this black conservative senator, Tim Scott, it was like go back 50 years and give the KKK Twitter. And that's what the Democrats, like white liberals, were literally saying, you're a disgrace to your race. Like all that. I mean, it was like the KKK 50 years ago, just instead of it being shouting in people's faces, they were just tweeting like
it was also really interesting that this one Democratic Party chairman in Texas made a very racist remark, got pressured into resigning. It took him like a week, but then the Texas Democratic Party would not accept his resignation. I'm like, look, you had a chance to score some points. This is why no one listens to you, is because
Yeah.
you hold different standards depending on who's promulgating the things you say you are for or against. And that's part of what creates so much of the anger in today's society. So much of the cantankerous nature is that standards are not being applied evenly. If one person, if it's wrong when one person does it, it's got to be wrong when everybody does it. You don't just get to make up your own rules. But there's so many folks who seem to think that, well, since I'm right, I can play by whatever rules I want. And in the end, it'll all work out because I have good intentions. Everyone else is evil, but I'm the one who means well. And if we just get to my utopia, then everything will be great. And that's one of the reasons why it draws so much opposition from folks like us.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I think we all appreciate that about Adam, that he really, he, everybody, nowadays it's like, oh, he's a Republican, he's a conservative, but no, he's stayed the same and he calls it out on both sides. Just it seems like today there's more to call out on the left these days, anyway. So yeah, we've got favorite rants. All right. So Coop, you touched on one earlier about the unremarkable band Journey. So what do you disagree with Adam with the most?
Thank you for mentioning that, because I also wanted to ask Coop a follow up on that.
I'm on the podcast right now.
Because much like Ace over here in SoCal, like some of the radio stations they have a set playlist and they just play certain songs the fuck out. So I'm only familiar with a few handful of Journey songs. What are some of the more unfamiliar but you feel we should know about songs by Journey?
Oh, yeah. Make a defense of Journey now. Go.
I totally got interrupted, so I totally lost like the last 45 seconds.
Oh no, Manny was asking about if you he's only heard a few Journey songs that have been, played out on the radio that, maybe he doesn't appreciate, but I think he's asking like, is there an album, the deep cuts, the non-radio stuff? Like, where would you start if you were really making the case for Journey to the public?
Oh, okay. You know what? That is a great question, because I was just having this conversation the other day. There's a song that everybody gets the lyrics wrong to. Hold on. Let me get. Obviously, everybody knows Journey. Everybody knows Journey Escape, because that's where a lot of their great hits came from. My favorite Journey song of all time, which was a hit, but not a lot of people associate with it, is Stone in Love, because it's such a weird title. It's got such an amazing riff at the beginning and all the way through. Dead or Alive is one of my other favorite songs from that album. And that, I don't think that got any airplay at all. And I can tell you my favorite album of theirs, other than probably Evolution, was Departure, which was one of their last ones. And Any Way You Want It is on there, Someday Soon. But there's Walks Like a Lady is kind of cool. It's got a little bit of almost of a jazz kind of progression, chord progression to it. So yeah, no, I think they've got a good body of work there.
No, and I never said I didn't appreciate them. I was just like, I needed something different from them. I want to hear something, because like I'm familiar with the drummer. He's fucking insane. So it's just like I wanted to see what else there is.
Oh man, he's
Come
a
on
drummer,
now.
so yeah.
I feel like
Tell
Journey
me
is one
you
of
didn't-
those groups where the deep cuts are probably better than their
I would agree
well
with
knows.
that. Although who didn't fantasize about getting that teenage little kiss, or even up underneath the blouse while listening to strangers walking down the boulevard? Come on now.
That was a good, was that, I'm thinking Raised on the Radio was 86. I was 14, but those bring back some memories, those songs.
They really do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might be why I think they're great. But you know what? If they affected me that way when I was young, and I still think about them and still feel emotion at the age of 50, I think that makes them kind of good.
Saying something. Yeah.
Yeah. Their albums, they had very simple: Journey, Escape, Frontiers, Departure, Infinity. Yeah,
They
very
also
short and sweet.
That's what
They make great montage music, montage rock. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
montage rock.
For
I love it.
movies, that's right.
Dude. Yeah.
All right. So what else, Russ? What else? Is there anything else like you really like, other than taste in music? Because everybody has problems with Adam's taste in music. Any other major things that you find Ace just gets it wrong on?
Wait, is this Coop or I think this should be aimed at
Oh, Coop. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
you
know
said
we look a
Bruce.
lot alike, but don't get us confused.
We do. You know, I got to do it. You know what? Russ in real life, he's a little bit shorter than I am. And one of the things he used to really hate when we worked together is when he would say something I disagree with, and I go, "Damn it, Bobby, you can't go around kissing plastic heads," because there is a resemblance.
Hey,
The two of you standing in the driveway.
Yes,
Kind of a
and
Mutt-
he also
kind of a Mutt
he
and
said
Jeff
I look
thing.
like Hank Hill too, so it went both ways. Corolla, in general, sometimes I get turned off by his sanctimoniousness. He can
Okay.
be one sanctimonious mofo. Pretty unbending. I know he says he's changed his mind a lot, but I've never heard him change his mind about anything.
Mm.
The sanctimony bothers me, and that's part of the reason that I have a problem with some of the members of the Republican Party. Like whenever I hear Mitch McConnell speak, well, I think, nothing but sanctimony in that guy's voice.
also to politics.
Right. His views on I'd say I'm very much like him in that I tend to be very libertarian, limited stuff, but he goes a little bit further with his liberal views on some stuff than I do. I am not a fan.
Didn't he once say that he wanted, like, he liked electric cars, but he wanted them powered by nuclear power plants?
That's not a bad idea, actually. It's actually pretty
That
good.
was him, yeah.
But specific issues. I don't find a lot of things to complain about. It's just maybe the way he delivers it sometimes. And maybe that sanctimony and that self-righteous nature of his, even though he doesn't. Oh, I will tell you one thing though. I'll tell you one thing that does bug me. I am a man of faith. Just to put that out there. And he always says, I'm an atheist, but I don't think that guy's a fucking atheist to save his life. I think that's
I don't think he
bullshit.
is either.
I think
I think
might
he's
be
also
agnostic
admitted to
at
coming
best.
around. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
and
But
lot
he
of
has this-
atheists
he always says
mislabel
things,
themselves,
God
for
willing,
sure.
God bless you. He always manages that he's ingrained to be that way, but he's drawn towards people of faith and religion, like Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro and some of these other
Yes.
folks, there's
He's-
nothing wrong with that. But I don't
He's
believe that he's an atheist.
spiritual. I would call him spiritual. I don't know if he would label it beyond
Spiritual
that.
atheist.
Yeah. He's probably like, I think if he listened to Jordan Peterson's take on religion, he would identify with that.
I was just
That's- and
listening
that's
to
where
his
I
series on Genesis
sit.
today, as a matter of fact.
The impression that I get is Corolla gets turned off by organized religion, but not as much by God, because they can be two totally different things. I mean,
True.
I don't have straight down the doctrine views on God and the nature of the universe and the nature of creation.
Mhm.
I also know where religion can fail, but religion was set up, organized religion was set up by man, which makes it corruptible. I
Yep.
think that Adam may be leaning more towards understanding, but open to a relationship with the divine, as opposed to going down to a Baptist or Methodist convention and getting it on with the preachers. I think they're totally different
Yeah.
things. I just think he hasn't necessarily enunciated that split correctly.
It would be pretty awesome though if Adam got super religious and then you start seeing him in church with like his hand up, like with his eyes closed.
Yeah, I'm not sure he'd go quite like that.
That'd
He-
be awesome.
Oh shoot. I had a thought and I just
While
totally
you're
lost
catching
it.
that, I think like on just to cap on Coop's point is that, I don't really disagree with Adam on much at all, but yes, you tapped into something where Scott Adams, the author, illustrator of Dilbert, right?
Oh, yeah.
He talks a lot about the persuasion game. And like, you can be right, but if you're not persuading people, like it doesn't do you much good. So by kind of going hard and like making things seem so simple, like it's so simple, you have to do this, you dummy. That
Well,
like you don't persuade people to your point of view. You're like hitting them on the head with your point of view. And it's like, well, what's the goal? Do you want people to come around? Because if you do, you need to play harder. You need to be smarter on the persuasion game.
let me
worry less about
He's
being
not
right.
very good at persuasion.
Yeah, let me jump into that real quick, because as I'm sure y'all seen from my own Facebook posts, I tend to hit people over the head quite a bit with stuff myself. But
Persuading them to be triggered. Yeah.
yeah, well, one of the things though, I always try to remember, and I don't know if Corolla does this or not, but the person you're engaging with is not necessarily your audience. You got to remember who your audience is and who you're talking to.
Mhm.
Like when we talk on social media, for example, if I'm engaging somebody on social media, I'm not going to change their mind. I already know that. I don't know anyone who's really had their mind changed because somebody went on a rant in social media. The question is who's reading it and who's able to think about it without getting engaged. That's what you got to remember when you engage.
Okay. Jane, you had a
Yeah.
thought about human nature.
So he, Adam Carolla always talks about, oh, it's human nature to do such and such. But I think religion is human nature. We gravitate to some sort of higher meaning, whether it has a label in a religion or not. But
Well,
I mean, even the leftists and environmentalism or BLM or whatever the fad is, it's sort of striving for an ideal.
Something bigger. Yeah.
Let me slip in a quick plug from one of my books here.
Yes, I wanted to bring those up too. Go for it.
One of my books, the one that I consider my best written, Salvation Day, one of the points I make is the main character makes the point that people are drawn towards believing in something more than themselves. They're not, simply sterile, human society folks. You're going to want to have something. People are pre-programmed to believe in something. Now, that might not necessarily be a specific religion, but there's something inside us, as in addition to the moral compass we all seem to have on certain basic issues.
Yeah.
Is people are programmed to believe in something more than themselves, and sometimes that frightens people because they think that they're being controlled by that belief.
Right.
Yeah. I think, and Jordan, mentioned Jordan Peterson a couple of times. I like to listen to him, and Jane and I talk about that quite a bit, that he taps into a lot of that. He explains that very well, I think. So.
Yeah. I just finished a YouTube series on Carl Jung's book, Ion, if you're familiar with him and his thoughts, but it's probably too much to really go on a tangent because it's a lot.
Deep metaphysical thought.
Yeah, but it's kind of just about bringing together our human reality and like where we're going, and these 2,000 year time eras called ions, and we're kind of we're right in going into the next phase. And how like the last 2,000 years were all about the birth of Christ, and then we had the rise of science, which was a shift towards the Antichrist, and now we're going towards the age of. So these past 2,000 years have been the age of Pisces, because that's the constellation you see when you look out on the spring equinox. And so every 2,000 years that changes, and now we're getting into, you'll see Aquarius, and that's supposed to signify a new ion era.
So we're entering the age of Aquarius.
Yes, I'm sure that's where I have to look that up, but I'm sure that's where.
This is my time. This is my time then, because I remember when I was a kid, my birthday is February 19th, and that's like the dividing point between Aquarius and Pisces or something like that.
Hey, so what's your social security number?
Let me tell you, it's 666. No, and I remember as a kid being curious, about your birthday, and like seeing one thing would have it as the 18th. So I was like always in between those. Anyway, that's really not interesting at all.
Yeah.
The age of Aquarius. That sounds like a song.
Yeah, and there's way more to this book
than
I'm talking about, but it's about achieving your higher self, and it's kind of merging your unconscious with your ego, your conscious and your unconscious, so you feel like a whole person. It's a lot. It's very theoretical. It reminds me of because I majored in math, so I had to take like real analysis, which is like theoretical math, and I.
Sorry, me and math don't get along.
Sorry. Well, you're right. So that's, everyone's got their skills. I actually don't know if but whatever. But yeah, it's about, it kind of reminded me of theory and math. And I kind of wonder if there's some sort of thesis there, I think, that could merge math and religion and human nature that out there that I'm not smart enough to do, but I hope someone does it someday.
Well, we talk about merging them, but then they are like connected. They're just, all that is connected already.
Chaos theory.
Figuring out how it's connected. So Russ, was that your Adam's claim to atheism, where he's really agnostic. Is that your disagree with thing?
I think.
Or do you have any more?
I agree with Coop. I think that he's more agnostic than he is atheist. Atheist, if you're atheist, you really don't, in the purest sense, you don't care about God. You don't care about the spiritual at all. You don't believe that there's anything there. So why would you need to even talk about it or whatever? So I think that, he's not gonna come out and say, like you said, he's not gonna be up there, raising his hands, singing, how great thou art or anything. Although that would be a very funny video if he ever actually did put something like that out. I think people would pay to see that. But I think that I don't think he's as overt or hostile as a lot of atheists, which I think maybe underlies or belies the view that maybe he does think there's more out there, but he doesn't really know what it is, and so he's not gonna get into one camp or the other because either it's too private to him or he hasn't figured it out, but he's still thinking through it.
Aren't atheists? Oh, go ahead, Manny.
The faith that you practice. What is it, Russ?
That's complicated.
I feel so Catholic. Gotcha.
No.
You ever seen Ghostbusters and the
Look, in the broadest sense of the word, you could call me a Christian, but I don't know if my beliefs line up with a particular Christian doctrine. If you really want to know a large portion, although not everything, if you really want to know a large portion of my beliefs, read my book Salvation Day. I'm serious. Salvation Day. I go by the name R.D. Meyer because Russ Meyer. I'm personally ungoogleable because there was a softcore porn producer named Russ Meyer in the early 70s. So that's why my books go by the name R.D. Meyer. But a large portion of what I believe is in Salvation Day. It's a story, but there's a lot of elements that come out of that. So it's more than I can go into here just because I view the nature of creation and God and the universe and everything is much more intricate and much more complex than anyone wants to admit. You've got very doctrinaire religious folks who think, well, it's got to be a certain way and everything's laid out a specific way in the Bible, not understanding the Bible was written in an Eastern mindset, which uses illusion, but the Western mindset reads everything in script, which takes things a little bit too literal. And you got to kind of reconcile those two mindsets. But I also, take issue with a lot of militant atheism that is like, well, we were just an accident and everything's just here. We're a series of chemical reactions and religious people are stupid.
Aren't atheists are really lucky that 99%, because it's probably a vast majority of people on earth do have some kind of inkling towards the divine and like meaning. Because it's like, if everybody was like pure atheists and you just saw someone driving a Lamborghini, you'd be like, well, I'm just gonna kill you. I'm just gonna kill you.
That's a point I've actually made. That's a point I've actually made several times. Is if it's pure atheism with no objective moral truth at all, then simply beyond evolutionary biology and societal evolution, then survival of the fittest means that if you have more stuff, I should be able to take it because it could benefit me and my progeny. And that's not necessarily, if it was pure atheist, people say, well, you should do what's right. Well, how do you know it's right? Someone else in a different group might think something else is right.
Yeah. You better thank evolution that, whatever you believe in, that everybody else is kind of believes there's consequences in the afterlife, because otherwise it'd be, you wouldn't last very long. So
to an extent, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. I think we were kind of.
Let's go to number 6.
Okay.
All right, Coop. Favorite guest, and why or which guest do you think has the best chemistry with Ace? Any perennial all-stars for you?
Yeah. I miss Dag back in the day. Their chemistry and their interaction was unbelievable. I know it is what it is now. He's crazy leftist and hates Adam now, I guess. But I think the funniest shows ever were with Dag and some of his characters and some of the improv he and Adam did. I also feel that way about Joe Coy. They have great chemistry, and Bung Lu Su. I don't care. You can criticize all you want. I have tears in my eyes every time he does.
Yeah, me too. Love it.
It's wonderful. Just a quick aside. The greatest joke I ever heard in stand-up comedy. It was before Joe Coy was huge, and he did a show in Tacoma. He's a Fort Lewis kid. His dad was in the Army, and so he's kind of a Tacoma kid. And the joke he told was wonderful. He said, "Yeah, it's nice to be back in my hometown, Tacoma." He said, "I just left my grandmother's met down in San Francisco, did a couple of shows, and he goes, sad, tragic thing is when I was backing out of the driveway, I ran over the puppy, my grandma's puppy. He goes, we were devastated because we were saving him for Thanksgiving. That's still one of the still one of the greatest jokes I've ever heard in my life. Obviously, him being Asian, it was okay. It was kosher.
Well, he's half Filipino, right?
Half Filipino.
Yeah.
So
So
you
we knew
kinda
his
like-
dad was in the military.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good assumption. Yes. In modern times, I'm a big fan of his interaction with. I love Fitzdog. I love their kind of a little bit of bumping heads and stuff like that. I think Fitzdog is a genius. I absolutely love him, and I love the fact that Fitz is one of those guys who's politically not like Adam at all, but he doesn't give a shit. He appreciates Adam's talent, and I really appreciate people in the business like that. So I'd say those three stand out for me. There's a bunch, but those three really stand out for me.
Do you ever listen to Allison Rosen and Fitz and their parenting?
I am not a
podcast?
fan of Allison Rosen, so I've never gone over to her pod. I wasn't a fan. I thought she was really smart and had some good quips, but her personality kind of threw me off the last couple of years she was there. But
Yeah.
I've thought about it because I like Fitz so much. I thought I should probably go over there and listen.
Yeah, I wonder what it is that they. I'm kind of with you. I don't think I will ever listen, but I do wonder sometimes. I wonder what's good about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like based on those three, you seem to be drawn to the kind of high energy, intense type of guests, which is very different. Well, Adam goes on his rants, he gets high energy, but I think he has low blood pressure,
Right,
and like
he does.
you're naming people that probably have high blood pressure.
Right. Right.
Well,
It's
I think they draw him out of
interesting.
that shell a little bit and away from that tendency to be in that low blood pressure place. I guess I enjoy his energy when he's around
Yeah.
people like.
well, that,
And
I-
when he cracks up like belly laughs with a guest, that just makes me happy. And when I
Yeah.
hear him really belly laugh, I'm like, oh yeah, that is so awesome. For some reason, that brings me joy to hear him laugh that much.
Yeah, same.
I just like seeing him and Dennis Miller kind of bounce off each other a little bit because Dennis is like a more high strung version of Adam Carolla in my eyes.
Yeah.
With even more vocabulary. Yeah.
More vocabulary, but he can get a little bit more excitable. Just watching that energy feed off each other is interesting. And I don't know if anyone ever saw. It was early, I think, when this actor kind of looks a little bit like Adam Carolla, but the interview he did with the guy that played Ross's dad on Friends.
David Schwimmer.
No, not David Schwimmer.
Oh,
David
dad.
Schwimmer's
Oh,
dad.
Elliot Gould.
Elliot Gould. Did anyone ever see the
Oh,
interview
yeah.
that he did with Elliot Gould where Carolla started cracking fart jokes and Gould got all pissed off because he thought he was at some kind of high class interview and he would only start giving one word answers.
That was
Yeah,
a
it was
live
that.
show.
It was a live show at what was it, that Italian restaurant? I forget the name, but that was a classic fucking.
Oh, was
That
that
was-
Adam's restaurant? Adam had
Yeah, I'm Alfie. There we go.
mouth.
Yeah,
I
Adam Alfie.
laughed my ass off because Gould looks so much like Carolla as if he's Carolla 20 years from now.
I think listening to Corolla Classics a few years back and superfan Giovanni, former guest of this podcast, by the way, look it up. He was saying that in hindsight, like Elliot Gould had no idea, like he didn't think he had no idea like what he was doing there.
No, he thought he was going to be there for like some more highbrow, sophisticated interview, and it really went sideways
Yeah,
on
like-
him, and so he was kind
like
of
a
pissed
James-
off the rest of the time.
Like a James Lipton interview. I forget what that show was called. Inside the
Oh,
Actors.
inside the
Studio.
actor studio,
It's
yeah.
like, no, we're gonna rip farts. We're gonna tell fart jokes. All right, so
Okay.
so
So,
for Russ, then it was okay. That was one of the favorite.
yeah.
Was the Elliot
Oh.
Gould episode? Any other favorite guests that you can think of?
No,
Or
like I
Dennis?
said,
I'm sorry, and Dennis Miller too. Yeah, they had a.
I like Dennis Miller a lot. So just watching them bounce off each
Yeah.
other is pretty fun. I enjoy them each in this is gonna sound weird, similar but different ways because they can be both very dry. But I think Miller's a little bit more excitable, and Carolla likes to try to keep it a little bit more low key.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I used to love Dennis Miller when he did Weekend Update on SNL.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of my
It's almost like
favorites, yeah.
watching a pair of brothers rip off, play off of each other.
Yeah. Well, Ace does great with other comics. He really like ups his game, I think, and he's trying to make them laugh. They're trying to make him laugh. So he really ups his game on that. I got a new little question we wanted to wedge in there. Do you have any favorite, because, we haven't talked about this much, but Coop and Russ are Warriors. and U.S. Army, both former U.S. Army, right?
Yes.
What about favorite military guests? We just had one. There was a Navy SEAL that was on this past week. Last
Jack
name
Carr?
was Carr. Jack Carr. Do
Jack
you have
Carr,
any
yep.
favorite like military guest episodes, whether they're the pilots or
I'd have
Sean-
to
yeah.
to seriously do some thinking about it. I'd have to seriously think and go back and probably relook some of it to be.
Yeah,
He-
Rob O'Neill is kind of a big one. That
Oh,
comes
yeah.
to my mind. That was
Rob
amazing.
O'Neill's everybody's favorite because he shot that in the face.
Yeah.
That was a riveting. The way he told that story was riveting. You know, the way
It was.
And there was the best part of that story was when he was saying that they were going up the stairs, and he was just like, "Hey, Muhammad." And again, I guess the story goes like that. He, like in English, and he like turned it and he like put his head around the corner and bam, like that's hilarious. That was
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I'm finding that hilarious, but it was just I was riveted to that episode. Yeah.
Bin Laden getting shot in the face. Anything about that is hilarious.
Watching porn too. Like, yeah, they really needed to, even if it's not really true, they needed to be like, yeah, he was in the middle of teens
Get a
gone
boner.
wild.
Yeah.
18.
That shot me at a boner.
Yeah, sitting
He
around
was
with some baby
watching
goats,
Yeah.
baby goats and a bag of Cheetos.
He's watching MILF porn. Yeah. Just
No,
feel free to
He's
embellish
watching
that
gilf
part.
porn.
Yeah, goats. I like that.
I
No,
believe
not,
that. would
not,
be
not
you
just
and her
goats.
kids.
The grandmas. I'd like to,
Oh, okay. You got me there. Yeah, they could have embellished more on that one.
I personally loved the he had him on in studio as well, but his live show he did with Dan Crenshaw when he went
Okay.
down there during the COVID and they were open. That was actually wonderful. Got some issues. Dan Crenshaw, of course, is amazing, and then Dan Crenshaw was very funny too. So they had a lot.
Yeah,
They had a little bit of both of serious and some comedic. They had a really good chemistry. So that was one of my favorite by far and away. And I'm a unabashed fan of Dan Crenshaw. So
Yeah, I think Dan Crenshaw actually scares the left because unlike a lot of the button-up, super stodgy, conservatives on the right, Crenshaw actually comes off as cool and funny and smart. And
Yeah.
I think it throws the left off their game because they're not used to having to deal with someone from the right that people might think is actually cool.
Yeah, he's kind of a new, I don't know if that's the right word, but kind of the old, like what was the guy, the astronaut or whatever, like the old school military guy going into politics was old school. And now you have, you guys overcome and adapt. So it's like with Crenshaw, you not only have to have the political knowledge and beliefs that match your voters and what people want, but also you got to be clever. You got to be funny. You got to be clever. It's kind of it's a tactic. It's a skill that he's got. So I love that guy. I hope that he doesn't get, kind of changed by the shit show that is, politics. He'd probably be more like the guy that does like a couple terms and then it's just like, F this,
Well, that's exactly what happened to Tulsi Gabbard on the,
Yeah.
She just got
I'm
sick.
so bummed that happened to her, man.
Yeah.
What she
Yeah.
went through.
Oh yeah. I like that lady. Yeah, I like her.
I do too.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with a lot of reviews, but I like the fact that she was straightforward in what she said. And
Mhm.
she was single-handedly responsible for destroying Kamala Harris's presidential bid during the last primary season.
Drunk Kamala, # drunk Kamala. Everything when you see her and you're like, what in the world? Just tell yourself, oh, she's drunk or she's tipsy, and everything makes a lot more sense. Like everything that she says, all her mannerisms, if you just assume that she's had like 4 or 5 drinks already, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Now to me,
see
she's
what
the
she
Joker.
made, yeah.
She just breaks out that laugh. I was like,
Yeah. It's because she's
I'm
had a
expecting to
few.
go toe-to-toe with the Cape Crusader.
That's because she's had a few with breakfast. That's why. Just getting into the rubbing alcohol.
I like how AJ Benza calls them pee pads and knee pads.
That's awesome.
Oh wow.
Well, maybe that's why she's had all the drinks is because, she's got to get up for getting back together with Willie Brown or something.
I'm not even kidding. She's tipsy by 10 a.m. Not even kidding. So that's why she's wearing that. She wears that
Allegedly.
mask.
Allegedly.
No, I know it for a fact. I don't need to.
He's talking about me and allegedly her with Willie Brown. Sure, allegedly the open secret that was known throughout San Francisco.
Oh, I think that's not even allegedly. That was it. Like
Yeah.
he says it. Like Yeah.
And he wrote an entire op-ed about it.
Yeah, that's right. Where he was basically saying like I was married, but I was, separated and about to get, I don't know. I really don't.
This woman that was 29 years my junior, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he did nothing. He did nothing wrong. Let's be clear. She's a scoundrel, but he was just, doing what any man would. That's all. Anyway, I'm just kidding. That's terrible. Jane, what were you going to say?
No, I was just saying she's great, ideal for feminism.
Absolutely.
You do you.
Yeah.
YOLO.
Can't judge.
Go low. Did you just say go low?
No, that would have been better.
YOLO,
no,
man.
YOLO.
Oh, if that's
you
like
only
the
live
feminist.
once.
Yeah, the feminist mantra is like, fuck it.
Yeah. All right.
So favorite military guy. Okay. So all right.
Okay.
What about, okay, go ahead, Jane.
Oh yeah. So Coop, any other podcasts you listen to in the Corolla universe? Like Adam and Drew?
I do listen to Adam and Drew. I listen to Reasonable Doubt. I fast forward that one a lot when Garagos starts saying his predictions that are never right. And I'm not a fan of Garagos at all, especially his. Oh, what did he say on one of the ones? Well, I give Kobe a pass, not Kobe. I give LeBron James a pass. I give him a pass. Fuck you, Garagos. I also
on holding him liable or culpable for outing that police officer
basically,
or whatever.
For all this fanning of the race hatred and all that stuff, and that's what LeBron James has done. He's every bit as bad as any
potential client. He's a potential client.
I give him a pass. Fuck you, Garagos. Anyway, sorry. I know we're on YouTube. Sorry about the cussing. I listen to the Water Cooler, but I'm not I kind of quit listening to that because I really like the Lady Lackeys a lot more. I think the Lady Lackeys are hilarious when they crack me up.
Yeah, you do.
I love that podcast.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah,
it is. They're funny gals and they're very energetic, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Plus they're gals.
Because they're gals. Yes. Misogyny 101. I didn't call them broads, so I've evolved.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You're enlightened.
Yeah. I'm about as woke as Rip Van Winkle, so you'll have to forgive me.
So that's a good mix. Like, so a little bit of Water Cooler, Lady Lackeys, and the Reasonable Doubt podcast. Yeah, I'll watch that sometimes. Reasonable Doubt's not really what I go to, but
right.
Yeah, but I do like to get some of the. I like to hear Garagos when he talks about. I mean, like he's kind of stands between us and the government overreach. Where
I do appreciate that.
Slimy a little bit, but yeah, it's like we need people like him. But what about you, Russ? You listen to any other Corollaverse podcast or any other podcast in general?
Let's open that up to him to other podcasts outside.
This doesn't really count necessarily in the Corollaverse because they're more acquaintances. Well, they're friends. But I'm a big Ben Shapiro devotee.
Mm-hmm.
I'll listen to his stuff while I'm on the elliptical. Mostly because we're about the same size. We share similar thought patterns.
You guys talk about the same speed too.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, actually, I think he talks a little faster than I do.
Yeah.
But I listen to Shapiro a lot, and a lot of folks in the Daily Wire universe. What? Oh, Coop is going to go feed his dog or something.
Dog duty.
Yeah, that's really cool, Russ. I put that in chat so we didn't have to talk about it, but
I know. Well, that's some good podcasting.
Hey, Blue Falcon, here I come, swooping down on Coop.
Because I don't like to I don't listen to my podcast when my kids are in the car very often because they get bored by them. So I normally listen to the music on the radio. But when they're not in the car, I'll just boot up my phone. I'll listen to something, like I said, usually Shapiro, but I'll branch out if I'm all caught up on him.
Yeah. I do this thing. My kids are in the car. They're watching the DVD in the back, and I have a little Bluetooth earbud listening to whatever I want to listen to. And they're like, "Why? What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?"
Well, it's funny you say that. I don't have the DVD in the back of my car, but my wife does. But usually if I'm riding in the car with her, I don't And she's looking at me right now like, better not say anything
You
bad.
put her in the back. What?
No, I don't listen to the podcast in the car when I'm riding with her, because then I end up ignoring her and that pisses her off, which rightfully it should. So I try to avoid that. If I'm listening to the podcast, it's usually in my car by myself. But if the kids are in the car, they get the DVD player and the vid screens in her car, but not in mine. So I got to find some other way to keep them entertained in my car.
Understood. Oh, let's see.
Let's get your, I'm curious to know exactly what your history is, military, when did you serve? Where did you get stationed? What's your kind of war experience? I know you guys, I think you were both in Iraq. Russ, why don't you start and give us a
Well,
synopsis.
first of all,
and how you two know each other too.
All right, well, first, to understand how comical my rise to service in the military was, you have to understand that I graduated high school about 4 inches shorter than I am now, and I think I weighed 102 pounds. So I was also the captain of the chess team, and wrote for the school newspaper. When they had the word nerd, my picture was right next to it. So I got to college. And there was an ROTC infantry tactics club called Commandos that was recruiting, and I went out for it just to see what it was like. And everyone thought there's no way I'm going to get through this thing. And so I just kept plugging away at it and decided that I was good at this infantry stuff and started working out and started getting in better shape. So I got commissioned into the infantry in 1995.
When did you get the super serum?
That didn't come later till about 97.
Okay.
But I first got stationed at a place called the National Training Center, which, to put it in more simple terms, it's a big laser tag in the desert between tanks. So I got stationed out there as part of the opposing force. I was studying Russian doctrine and playing as the anti-US forces out there for 3 years. Then the Army said, "Hey, thanks for serving out in the middle of nowhere for 3 years. We're going to send you to Korea for a year for your good efforts." So I went to Korea for a year and had two of the most vomit-inducing jobs I ever had in the military. The first one was where I served as the 2nd Infantry Division's protocol officer, making sure that all the visitors to Korea for my division were taken care of, and that when we were at certain dinners, all the place settings were right. So it was just wonderful for me. And then I went to the 101st, and I took a rifle company to the invasion of Iraq in 2003, the Charlie Company Cobras, and fought in the Battle of Hilla when 3rd ID was trying to push the Karbala Gap. My company and the battalion we were attached to were pushing north on what's called a feint, which is, hey, we're going to pretend like we're going up somewhere and try and draw folks to us so 3rd Infantry Division isn't as hit as hard. We were only supposed to engage 2 battalions, which a battalion's about 600 soldiers. So we were only expecting to face about 1,200 soldiers. Ended up that 2 brigades of the Republican Guard got committed against us. So that's about 6,000 soldiers as opposed to 1,200, maybe a little bit more than that. The intel folks, just showing that they are always on top of stuff, told us, hey, you're just going up to a certain spot in the road. You're going to turn around, come back. You'll be back by 9 in the morning. We had a 10.5-hour firefight. One of my soldiers earned a Silver Star during that fight. We had 7 Purple Hearts. We lost a soldier named Brandon Rowe when a bullet went off a tank and up underneath his body armor. It was just kind of a freak shot, and he was a great soldier. And then after we ended up killing like 90 of the enemy in that fight, I think something like that. And that was our biggest fight. And we finished up through the Iraq War. And at the end of that, you're only supposed to have about 24 months in command in the Army. They don't like you going beyond that. So I was at 25 months, and this was before stop move, when you were still allowed to leave the country. And the Army said, hey, you need to leave command because you've been in command for 25 months. So
what's the idea? Yeah, what's the idea behind that?
The reasoning behind that is so that everybody gets a chance to command. Because you have to have command to progress to the rank of major. So in order to make sure everybody gets command, I think if you're in the middle of a war zone, you ought to stay there until you're done or relieved. But I don't get to make those kinds of policy decisions. So they said, hey, we want to send you somewhere that's completely opposite of that. How about you go to Davis, California, and teach ROTC at UC Davis in Sacramento State? And actually, I got pulled there by a buddy of mine who died last July from a heart attack, a guy named Brian Anderson. Coop took Brian's place because Brian decided he wanted to go down and teach ROTC at the University of San Diego. And Coop then took his place. And that's where I met the mutt of Mutt and Jeff up there, one of our first interactions was an old wives' tale my dad had told me that I took for granted as true, and Coop very loudly disabused me of the notion of the meaning behind certain parts of the first calf patch. And I believe Coop's exact words to me were something along the lines of, "No, that's fucking wrong. Don't be stupid. That never happened."
So when was it? What's the timeline here? When did you?
That was Coop. That was the spring of 2004, I think. On the
I think that's right.
Spring FTX was the first place we really interacted, because one of the other instructors was running down, with the RTC programs up there. There was UC Davis and Sacramento State were basically one program, but they trained at the two different schools. So the Army folks who were over the RTC program out there helped administer both UC Davis and Sacramento State. But there was kind of a rivalry between the two. Now, as the junior year instructor, which is kind of the most important year to prepare these cadets to go off to their summer leadership training, I was not touching. Let me back that down. You don't get the wrong idea. I was involved with the cadets from both schools. But there was a little bit of a rivalry between the folks from UC Davis and Sac State a little bit. And I remember at one of the FTXs, the UC Davis freshman year instructor started running down some of Coop's cadets. And I believe Coop threatened to body slam him against a tree or something. And probably. that was the introduction to how we got. And now Coop and that other guy that were involved in that little kerfuffle were fine after that. I don't think they had another problem after that, but I don't think the other instructor was expecting Coop to be quite as vocal in his defense of his cadets. And then Coop and I just kind of hit it off from there, and we've been in touch ever since.
So real one quick question before we get to Coop's kind of timeline to that, to that meeting place. You mentioned earlier, like you were at the oppositional forces. So were you basically, what I heard was something like you were kind of playing the role of potential enemies we'd face. Is that what that is about?
Out of the National Training Center is 1,000 square miles of nothing but desert and some rough mountains. And the U.S. Army sends brigades from the Army there to train. It's kind of a capstone training event. And it's like force on force. It's free play. I'm putting this in very layman's terms. It's like free play laser tag. All the tanks are outfitted with sensors, and they have little, they're called Hoffman devices and other things that make big booms to simulate tanks going off and other things firing. And basically you've got the U.S. Army, they're called the Blue Four, or the Blue Forces on one side, and the opposing forces known as the Op Four on the other. We always said that we were from the fictional country of Krasnovia. We called it Krasnovia because it's a derivative of the Russian word red, which I think it's Krasny, I believe is the word for red in Russian. And we would use Russian tactics, but unlike the Russians, who were very stilted and very regimented in how they did things, we were a lot more free play. So we actually ended up beating the U.S. forces most of the time. And they were coming to our turf, and we were doing this every month. So I did that for almost 3 years, where for about 17 months, I was a platoon leader. I helped command a motorized rifle company in the field consisting of 3 T-80 tanks. They were visually modified to look like T-80 tanks, and 7 or 8 BMP assault personnel carriers.
Those are Russian tanks.
Russian stuff. We would use Russian doctrine. And then I became a troop executive officer. And in the fights every month, I was in charge of what's called the CRPs, or the combat reconnaissance patrols. Basically, the scouts going out in front of the main body to try to find the enemy, engage them on a limited basis, and then tell the main body where the U.S. Army forces were. And from there, I left to go to the captain's career course. But it really taught me a lot about maneuver warfare, how to integrate artillery, how to use smoke, how to use close air support, when to improvise, when to stay on doctrine. I actually upset a few people at the captain's career course when I tried to remind them that doctrine is a guideline. Doctrine is not set in stone. That's how, true in battle, you have to improvise sometimes. And of course, it's all simulated. I mean, no one's getting PTSD out of that or anything. Yeah. You, at the end of the day, you rekey yourself, you're alive again, and you go home. But also part of the Russian forces that we were portraying, we were able to do things that you're not allowed to do in the U.S. Army. Like, we use chemical weapons as part of the Russian forces. We used chemical weapons against the U.S. forces so they would understand how to maneuver against it, how to fight against it. So those were some of the things that we were allowed to do. There's a few others I won't go into because
drink vodka all day.
Well, no, maybe not all day, maybe all night, but not all day.
All right, that's awesome, man. So just a quick thing: Two Grumpy Bastards is the name of Coop and Russ's podcast, which, you guys don't get into, really, really long war stories and things, but you touch on this kind of stuff a lot. So a great reason to listen and to follow them on the social media and interact with these guys for future shows to say, hey, we love that. We'd love to hear more about your experiences that way. So, so Coop, yeah. So where did you get into the Army? Like, how did that go for you? And lead us up to this when that music, like the that when you and Russ locked eyes the first time.
Oh my! It was more like there was a what do you castanets and like flamenco music when I locked.
Like across the salsa floor. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's, after listening to Russ, I really don't have anything to say. So go ahead and go to the next question. No,
all right, that's a wrap.
Hey, real quick, you got to ask Coop about the person that was in his officer basic course that later became an internet sensation.
Yeah, go ahead and Google Johnny Black. She was a famous porn star in the 90s.
Oh,
he was my small group instructor when I was at the basic course. That's a true story. She wasn't a porn star yet, but anyway, true story.
Johnny
that
Black.
Was a wild time. So yeah,
I'm getting Johnny Walker Black.
Yeah. The E7 that she was married to secretly became her manager too when they got kicked out of the Army. That's a long story. Anyway, and yes, I may have or may not have been over at their house and partied in their pool when I was a student there at the basic course. May or may not have. In San Antonio, that was rough. Okay, so I actually got accepted to West Point when I was in high school. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I found her, and then I went to images, and I Google censored stuff, but I guess they don't.
When you're airborne, you can take it any which way. Oh shit! I didn't know that.
If you put in very specific terms, Jane, the image sensor filter does not work.
Got it.
Yeah. Had some good times. I got accepted to West Point. And I got accepted to Annapolis. Originally, I wanted to be a Marine officer. That was kind of my goal. But once I realized that, and no offense to the Marine Corps, but kind of the scope of what you could do in the Marine Corps as opposed to the Army. Army's like a huge country. We've got everything in the Army, from computer programmers to the medicine side to everything you can imagine that would take a city to run. We have it in the Army. It's huge. And for every gunfighter up front, like Russ, there's 15 people that support that gunfighter throughout the logistics chain and the support chain. So it's huge. Wow. And that appealed to me. And just the less the Army really kind of, I got into it and preaches individualism. Like Russ says, doctrine's a guideline. Regulations are kind of written for retards. And so they preach that you think outside those lines and make decisions. It's all about making a decision, making an informed decision. And that's really what we preach in the Army. Make a quick decision is better than a well thought out, Patton. I'm paraphrasing Patton a little bit here. So I fell in love when I was a senior in high school. So I turned down both of those appointments, and my dad didn't speak to me for like 2 years. And then I realized I went a couple of different routes when I was in college. I realized I wasn't going to get paid to play football on Sundays, although I did stay an athlete in college in other regards, and got into the astronaut program, but I had astigmatism enough to where I got washed out of that. And then I started getting recruited by all the alphabet folks because I was a good college student and, active. And I was actually really seriously thinking about a career in the CIA for a while.
What's alphabet?
Alphabet.
The CIA
like FBI
people. CIA,
okay.
NSA.
Not the folks you think of today as the alphabet folks.
Not the cereal or the gays.
The other alphabets.
Or BLM. But so I was seriously thinking about a CIA career. And I was a biology, physics, and English major during my undergrad years. And the Army was footing the bill for a scholarship for ROTC. And my plan was to go in the reserves and, go into medical school and be a doctor. I did get accepted. I went to the University of Washington for 2 years, medical school, and I hated it. I hated everything about it. I hated the people I was in class with. I hated the instructors. I hated the oppressive far left politics of being there. And so I took a sabbatical, did some things like being a high-end security guard or security personnel, like would escort like rock bands when they came in. I moonlighted as a bouncer on the weekends. I had a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden I get a call from the Army, from ARPERCEN, the Army Personnel Center, saying, oh, by the way, remember the $125,000 check we wrote you for your undergrad degrees? Yeah. So I ended up going to officer's basic course. And while there, even though I was a reservist, I went through a program where if you wanted to go on active duty tour, anywhere you wanted to go for 3 years, you had to go through a board process. And there was like 300 competitors to get this. Is like, oh shit, what am I going to do? Go back and, do jack shit back in Tacoma or Seattle. I actually ended up winning the board, and I'm like, sweet, I'm going to go on a 3-year tour to Germany or Italy, Vicenza, Italy. My mother's from Bavaria. She was, so I was like, that'd be really great. Go back and study my roots. Well, I get orders in 2 days sending me to Fort Hood, Texas, to the 1st Cav Division. Yeah. So that whole part about where I wanted to go wasn't true. And I was at first distraught because Fort Hood sucks. And that part of Texas is awful. 93 degrees, 93% humidity at 3 a.m. Yeah. Scorpions and everything bites, and fucking jackrabbits carry fucking maces and machetes and hit you in the shin and stuff. And I got there and I went to, this is where Russ was talking about the story. I went into the 7th Cavalry, 27 Cav, and the 7th Cavalry is very famous for being Custer's regiment. And also the book and movie, We Were Soldiers, Once and Young, Mel Gibson plays Hal Moore. That's the 7th Cavalry. A lot of history. You wear Stetsons at the officers club. You can wear Stetsons, black Stetsons as part of your uniform, and airborne gayness over here. But anyway, I just loved it. I absolutely fell in love with it. I had, I was a platoon leader, 42 guys and $9 million worth of equipment right out of school. Absolutely fell in love with the history and the people I was around. And I stayed in, I had, Russ talks about company command. Part of the reason they move you along in the Army is they like this thing called stretch. And so if you're uncomfortable in your job and learning it, the theory is that you're going to do a better job than somebody who's cemented in that job and has been there for a while and is comfortable, because you're always looking at ways to do things. You're going to work a little harder. That's part of the philosophy in moving officers quickly along. So I had 2 company commands, and then went to Fort Lewis, and they put me in charge of a headquarters and headquarters company as a company commander. That means you're basically dealing with all the support personnel, or what Russ probably likes to call ash and trash. You're not dealing with the gunfighters. You're dealing with, like, you've got the personnel people, you got the support platoon, you got the logistics people, you got all that. And you have a lot of officers that outrank you because you have the entire headquarters. So you're basically a glorified training and administrative person. I had a 600 person company when I got there. Nobody had taken a PT test for 2 years. So I came down hard like any cav trooper would, and I was instantly hated by the uppers. And that command was me running night court. That's what I did. I was just busting soldiers for doing drugs and stuff like that. It was an awful experience. So much different than being in a line unit. Line unit is a deployable unit like Russ and I talk about. So I actually got out of the Army for a while. I resigned my commission and went into the reserves and worked for a Fortune 500 company up here in the Pacific Northwest for 3 years. That was a horrible experience. Eat your young and stab you in the back and all that stuff. And for me, 911 worked out really well because the Army called me back in January 2013 back on active duty to fight to support the OIF and OEF operation.
Did you have a choice? Did you have a choice, or were you just called back? Okay,
I did not,
because you were in the reserves. So I
was in the reserves, but then I got put right back into active duty. So no, I didn't have a choice, and that's part of the deal when you go into the reserve. I could have resigned my commission outright, but I didn't.
So do you have to tell your employer that you're in the reserves? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, you do. Unfortunately, the one good thing about that company is they were very supportive. When I got back, when I went from being a captain in the Army to going into corporate America, I actually made more in corporate America 3 years later because Bush had been in office and upped everybody's salary and completely revamped the Soldiers and Sailors Act and GI Bill. I was making a lot more as an active duty captain. And not only that, the company that I was working for paid half my salary for 6 months and kept the slot open for me for 3 years. So they were very supportive. It's a pretty
there's some pretty strict rules about how they have to
There are.
give you the time, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there are, but this company went above and beyond that. And then after that, I stayed in, went through a couple deployments. I did most of my career in the medevac community. That's an interesting place. A lot of very smart people, very fast paced and tough job at times, as you can imagine. And then Russ and I met, like he said, I was looking for something to do because I fell in love again, and met this gal from California. And I saw that this job at we're running the Sacramento State ROTC program popped up, and I could be a full professor and all that. And I competed with quite a few different people. And Russ remembers Don, our first boss, really great guy. And when people say GPA doesn't matter, Don Hill told me that it was between me and another guy. I asked him, so why did you choose me for this job? And it was great. I was really excited to do the job. And he said, well, he goes, it was between you and another officer. And he goes, you guys were pretty even, although he had some more experience that I really liked, but his GPA was like a 2.3 and you had the GPA you do. And I thought, if I'm going to put somebody up in front of kids, I want somebody with that GPA. And I only say that because GPA sometimes matters. You hear a lot of people say, GPA doesn't matter, but
it depends.
I've always looked at that as somebody who hires people too. It doesn't matter a lot, but in that job it does. And I stayed in, did various jobs. I got to the point where I'm sure Russ can agree with this. I got to the point where I was working for a 2-star general pretty regularly, and I was what they call a G3, G5, which is future operations and current operations. So basically, I was doing all the planning, all the operations for a division size unit. That's about 9,000 soldiers. Everything that happened in that unit came through my desk, and I had a small staff. I enjoyed the job, but it got incredibly political at that point. And you may not be able to tell us, but I don't do politics very well. The 2-star kept pushing me to go to the Army War College, and he wanted me to be a full bird colonel and eventually a general. And I was like, yes, sir, I've been working for you for 3 years and I see what you do as a general, and your job sucks. You just fly around and shake hands and pretend you like people. And so I decided to retire, and I did, and got out officially in 2015.
Okay.
That's the one over the world.
You seem to have like a windier path, and Russ kind of off the bat was just like, I got to prove everyone wrong, and went like straight in.
Russ is more like a honey badger, and I'm a Renaissance man. So I guess
one of my bosses used to say that one of the things he liked about me was all he had to do was tell me that there was a problem and step back.
Yep.
Yeah. Coop. So first gal kind of derailed you temporarily, but what happened with did the second gal what happened with her?
Oh, I don't know if she listens to this podcast or not, but she's the narcissistic, horrible human being. No, she's not a horrible human being. She's a narcissist. What I told her at the end of the relationship was, I said, the sad thing about this relationship is there's 2 people in this relationship that are in love with you. So that was kind of the that was the cold truth.
He's not bitter at all.
I'm not actually. Russ met her, and she's actually a very cool person in a lot of ways. But yeah, just our personalities didn't mesh. We were together for quite some time, so
okay. But she didn't. At least she didn't derail you.
Not at all. No.
Yeah,
we lived kind of separate lives, and I kind of did my career, and she did her. She was a director in a Fortune 500 company, and yeah, it was from that standpoint, it was great. She never derailed me or anything.
Okay.
So. Yeah, I continued along what you consider the normal Army path. After ROTC, I went to the Command General Staff College, went out to Hawaii for about 7 years. Was in several different units out there as a what's called a battle major in the division staff. I was a battalion executive officer. I went over to a unit that helps train the National Guard. I was a battalion commander with them. I went to help train the Saudi Army, the Saudi National Guard, then came back to finish teaching brand new baby majors at the Command General Staff College that I had actually attended about 9 years previous. But the yeah, it does get pretty political up there at those stages. Like I said, my path was fairly conventional when it came to the Army, but while I deployed to combat 3 times, I deployed twice as a major. I only consider my first experience in Iraq, OIF 1, the invasion, to be actual combat experience, because in 2008, 2009, I never left the forward operating base. I was a battle major in the division headquarters, 13, 14 hours a day, literally every day during the tour. Now, I get a quick tell this story. I like to tell this story. My boss, one of the few times that the chief of staff actually yelled at me was we were tracking a couple of terrorists squirting out of their hole, and we had them on heat sensors and everything. And so I used the Air Force to drop 3 GBU-31s on 2 terrorists. The first one missed completely. The second one got close, and the third one just annihilated them. And the chief of staff came down out of his office and went to me and said, "Russ, did you just use 3 bombs to kill 2 terrorists?" I'm like, "Yes, sir. They needed to die." And you're waiting for him to talk about waste of resource, and instead he says, "Damn it, I'm up in my office all day. I don't get to have any fun. The next time you're going to kill people, you come get me so I can watch."
Yeah, I want to see those videos live of the orange dots.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was fun. But then in 2010, 2011, we got rocketed a few times. I heard some booms, but we were well past the conventional fight at that point. So it's not what I would consider real combat experience when it's indirect fire and you're not really going after folks.
Yeah. Well, where was this exactly? This was Iraq or Afghanistan?
All three of my combat tours were to Iraq.
Okay.
Now I did kind of deploy one last time in my career in 2015, 16. I told you I went to help train the Saudi Arabian Army. It's a deployment in terms of it was tax-free money. You get an extra stipend called family separation pay. You get hazard zone pay because it's Saudi Arabia, but it's not like a deployment like you think of it. My time in Saudi Arabia was actually quite awesome. If it hadn't been for being away from family, it would have been one of my favorite assignments because
that's got to be wild to see see the world like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in Saudi Arabia, I had my own 2-bedroom villa with marble floors. The Saudi government gave me a 2015 Chevy Tahoe to drive around. It was a 5-day work week. So it wasn't like the kind of deployments you think about.
Yeah. Still, that's a wild way to experience the world for sure. So, Jane, how are we looking on time? Are we?
We should probably wrap it up. Let's have one more question for you guys. What are your favorite war movies?
Oh yeah,
we'll give it to Coop first.
You mentioned We Were Soldiers. Please talk about that. We Were Soldiers. With the Mel Gibson movie.
This is going to be like superhero for the superhero episode.
Yeah. Real quick,
I'm
going
to
just
Soldiers.
Be like, true story. So, it's based on the book We Were Soldiers Once and Young, and I actually know personally a lot of the people that were portrayed in that movie because I was in the same unit. 25 years later, and the ancients, as we call them, would come back for stable calls and drink beer with us and all that. So I met Hal Moore, the one that Mel Gibson plays. Mm-hmm. True story. I was running the garrison at Fort Hunter Liggett prior to getting deployed, and that's they were retraining a bunch of people to send them over. They had a bunch of schools going on there, and they were filming We Were Soldiers. At the same time, I was basically the garrison and commander and the training guy. And I walked into the hacienda one night, and Sam and good old Barry Pepper are in there, and there was a bunch of kids, kind of soldiers. They were in awe, of course. Sam Elliott and a lot of people knew who Barry Pepper was Elliott. From. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He played Sergeant Major Basil Plumley, one of the heroes of the fight. Anyway, so I go up to the bar, and I just I looked at him and said, "Hey, gentlemen, welcome. I'm such and such, and I'm the garrison commander. It's great to have you folks here. I appreciate you putting up with the soldiers." And then I did a victory coin. Russ is very familiar with this. If you coin somebody, you basically, the highest ranking or whatever, if you coin somebody, they don't have the coin and they have to buy you a drink. So I put up my 7th Cavalry coin, my Gary Owen coin. I go, "Gentlemen, coining you." And he looks at me and Sam Elliott, no shit, looks at me and he goes, "Major, you're not going to buy another goddamn drink tonight." And I got Sam Elliott and Barry Pepper bought me drinks and we shot the shit for about an hour. It was pretty cool.
Explain
But-
these coins. Do you guys? So you have the coin. You like always have one with you, and then you give it. Then you got to go get a new one. Like, how's that? Like, is there a machine that dispenses these things? Like, what's going
You got to
on?
earn them. It's a
Okay.
unit. You got to earn them through some type of achievement or being part of the unit. I had to earn that
Okay.
one by drinking a canteen cup full of horse piss and Tabasco sauce and doing all this other stuff and getting my Stetson.
When
and
you
Spurs.
give it, that's it. You don't get another.
Well, no, when you
coin.
coin somebody, if somebody is in the military and they don't have their coin with them, then they have to buy a drink. Or if they do have a coin, you figure out which one maybe was given to you by the highest ranking officer or the most important one. I can tell you, Russ remembers. Do you remember Sergeant Major Cali that I got to give that speech
Yep.
at one of the dining ins?
Yep,
He's
Medal of
a
Honor winner.
Medal of Honor winner, and he gave us all Medal of Honor coins. And so I carried
Wow.
that one around, and nobody can beat that shit. So for the rest of my life, if anybody ever tries to coin me, like, really? Medal of Honor coin. Yeah,
It's
so
like
that's
the
kinda-
military version
Coin.
of Pogs or whatever.
You know what? That's actually kind of accurate.
The
That's
coin,
actually kind of
the
accurate.
coin is basically
Like, I got Pikachu.
the coin is basically an attaboy without them having to go through the paperwork of giving you a real medal that you put on your uniform and might get promotion
Okay.
points for.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I'll real
The highest-
quickly.
The highest
I'll real
ranking one I
quickly,
got was in Korea. I got one from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs.
Wow, that's awesome.
since we're at tight time, I got to tell you my favorite modern war movie is The Outpost that came out last year with what's his name, Scott Eastwood. Russ knows about the about the shit. I can't remember the name of The Outpost for us in
I remember-
Afghanistan.
It's
I remember the
I don't remember
thumbnail.
exactly. Is
Yeah.
this Cop
Yeah,
Keating?
it is so realistic as far as the combat scenes and just how soldiers talk, how they wear their uniforms. You know, that's when you can tell they really get the nuances correct. I'm also a big fan of Generation Kill, the miniseries about the Marine recon that HBO did several years ago. That was a
That was
book.
a really good movie series.
Yeah.
That was a good
Fantastic and,
TV
and
show,
again
yeah.
very accurate about what soldiers face in combat and just that. So I'd say modern, those two, and then Renaissance wise, I love the old school The Longest Day with the Duke and Robert Shaw and all those huge actors. Everybody in Hollywood was in that movie, and it's actually a fairly accurate historical movie. President Eisenhower plays himself as the commanding general in that movie, so it's fantastic, and it's actually not badly done, historically accurate. So The Longest Day, and it's got the Duke in there as he was one of you guys, Russ. He was one of the 101st Division commanders in that movie. So yeah, great movie.
I'm sure I saw that way. When I was a kid, I think my parents showed me that. Yeah, that
Thanks.
looks familiar.
Look, if I had to pick one, to be honest, it's not a movie; it's a series. That's Band of Brothers.
Oh man,
Band of
yeah,
Brothers
yeah.
really resonates to me. It just looking at the way the soldiers interact reminds me so much of my company, of my Charlie company. They got a lot of that. Now, obviously, they had to sanitize some of it for TV, but there's not like they didn't show the soldiers there drawing dicks on everything that they could find. Which just a real quick story. I do got to bring this up. That thinking of dicks spawned this thought in my head. When we were in Iraq, when we were in Baghdad at first, before things went bad and the insurgency started and everything, and the Iraqis, look, contrary to what y'all think, the Iraqis in Baghdad, especially at the beginning, loved us. I mean, we drew crowds like we were rock stars, and we could get crowds to do just about anything, which is not necessarily a good thing when you have a 19-year-old soldier out there who's got power for the first time. I'll never forget one of my soldiers, I believe it was PFC Lewis, was standing on a wall in Baghdad, and he had a crowd of about 60 to 75 Iraqis chanting, "Suck a dick, suck a dick." and I remember pulling him off the wall, me and my first sergeant looking at him and saying, "Hey, what do you think happens if CNN comes by here right about now?" That's when I had to have a meeting with my company and say, all right, fresh press guidance. Don't do anything that's going to get the president of the United States asked a question in a news conference. Okay.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah,
bad. But Band of Brothers, the way that they interacted, the combat scenes, the way that I can't remember the guy's name who portrayed Dick Winters. But
the guy that's on Billions on Showtime now.
Yeah.
What,
Damien something.
Damian Lewis?
Damian Lewis.
Yeah.
I thought he did an outstanding job. The guy that David Schwimmer played, Captain Herbert
Raging
Sobel.
asshole.
Yeah, Herbert Sobel. We've all had a commander like that.
Yep.
All of us have had a commander like that, believe it or not. I think that in the book it put it right that Herbert Sobel, when they asked if Easy Company was so good because of or in spite of Herbert Sobel, most people said both, and those who didn't say both said that Herbert Sobel made Easy Company. So they were all very, very representative of how folks would act. I remember when we were in Iraq, we all kind of gravitated towards that movie because it was one of the few DVDs we could find and actually figure out how to play.
Yeah.
And it did remind us a lot of ourselves. So Band of Brothers, if that's on TV, I stop and I watch it. Actually, when we were teaching ROTC, I would use several Band of Brothers clips to teach leadership and have the cadets evaluate the leadership that was going on, both the good leadership and the bad leadership. When the captain, I can't remember his name now, but outside of the Battle of Foy, just completely went catatonic and wouldn't do anything. I had the cadets evaluate him on, what his leadership was like. So that's probably my favorite series. I mean, there's a lot of others that are good. I like Saving Private Ryan. There are some historical inaccuracies, I think, in Saving Private Ryan, but the general feel of the movie is pretty good. I liked, what was it? Coop, was it American Soldier that had American Sniper that had Chris Kyle?
Yes. Yeah. Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, I liked American Sniper. They really sanitized Chris Kyle. He was not always the straight-laced, uber good guy that he was portrayed in the movie. He had some flaws, but I've enjoyed those kinds of war movies. Yeah. When I watch them, the problem is when I watch a war movie, I tend to be like, you should be doing this and that and the other, and you need to go, so it's just my natural personality type.
Well, as you guys were telling your stories, that was kind of, a lot of those were the characters that I was imagining, like the Sobel from Band of Brothers, or like Plumley, Sam Elliott from We Were Soldiers. And I was kind of like, that's kind of like in my mind, I was filling in your stories with movies that I've seen. Yeah. Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers they're kind of almost accompanied each other because they were made around the same time, and maybe Tom Hanks and Steven
Tom Hanks,
Spielberg.
because Tom Hanks is in Saving Private Ryan, he's one of the guys that sponsored Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
And just real quick, Coop, you were talking about Plumley and the guys from We Were Soldiers. I get to meet Joe Galloway twice. Once he came and talked to a group of us who went to tour some of the various sites around Washington, D.C. when I was in the 101st. And then he came and talked to my class at the Command General Staff College. And I don't know anything for sure, but when he came and talked to our class there, he appeared to have been somewhat inebriated at the time, possibly.
Was he the reporter that was with them?
He was the reporter.
That was Gary Pepper's character. Yeah,
exactly. He was attributing opinions to soldiers that I don't think were quite accurate when he talked about how everyone wanted to turn around and spit on the Pentagon. Not really sure that was completely accurate, but I will say Joe Galloway, he's made a career out of talking about how great Joe Galloway and his experience over those few days were.
Journalists. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd say, not being in the military, but still, I think when I remember seeing Saving Private Ryan and just after it was over, just standing there, like jaw drop, it was kind of life changing. Because before that, like
exhausting.
Yeah.
The first 20 minutes of that movie was probably the best battle sequence I've seen in any movies ever.
Yeah.
The one that really brought it home to me was when this one dude was looking around, picked up his own arm and tried to carry it back to the aid station. Yeah. That's one of the scenes that really impacted me.
Yeah, Russ, I don't think you can hear stories. Yeah, so go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chris. I was just going to say, do yourself a favor and watch The Outpost because it's just as realistic. And by the way, that was the Battle of Kamdesh at Outpost Keating.
Yeah, and Keating. I thought it was Keating.
Yeah, and then Jake Tapper actually wrote the book, which is kind of interesting. But he was there. Yeah, he was.
That's The Outpost, or that was okay.
Yeah, he wrote the book, The Outpost. He was there. He was the embedded reporter, Jake Tapper.
You talked about reporters. Just real quick interjection here. When I was at Command General Staff College, one of the things they do is they bring in a bunch of reporters so you can learn how to deal with the press. And the guy, he died, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, or maybe 8, 10 years ago. But the guy they brought in for us was a reporter for ABC News called John McQuethy. And it was funny that after that week, I'm getting ready to fly with my family back to Tennessee just for the weekend to celebrate my oldest daughter's first birthday at the time. And McQuethy was in the airport at the same gate that I was at. Well, reporters do not like being challenged the way that they like to challenge other people. So when I just went up, I said, "Hey, Mr. McQuethy, Russ Meyer, I was in the class at CGSC. Really appreciate what you did for us." And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's good to see you, young man. You're not on this plane, are you?" I was like, "No, sir, I'm going on this plane over here." "Oh, okay, good." Because when you turn it around on the reporters, they're not real big fans of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wow, guys, that's I'm gonna put this episode up with up there with, like, we had a couple others with Giovanni, superfan Giovanni, and he just obliterated us with information that, it's like, I'm gonna have to listen to this again to fully get all the.
I listened. I went back and listened to that. That was a great podcast.
Yeah,
So-
he was just like it was like
cool
machine gun fire of information about Adam Carolla that he was spraying us with.
Yeah, so much expertise. in
Yeah.
both,
I think he lives
so-
up in my neck of the woods too. Maybe I can figure out how to get him on.
Yeah, he's in that
That'd be awesome.
what's that town in Idaho that everybody goes to, and it's got a French name.
Coeur d'Alene.
Russ can
Coeur
say
Coeur
Lane.
d'Alene.
Croissant, Idaho.
Cord Dilene.
Coeur d'Alene, excuse me.
Coeur d'Alene.
Means the
Yeah,
heart
so
of something.
well, I want to encourage our listeners to check you guys out because I really enjoy, even though you guys are military and it's really not my thing.
Now we got way into
not
that.
about. I mean, I very much respect the military, but I.
Just remember,
so I'm a chick in some way. I'm a typical chick sometimes, but
one of the things I always like to remind people is military is cool and all, but we, just like the rest of society, we have our share of dickheads. We have our share of
right.
jackasses and dumbasses. So it's one thing. It's one thing to respect certain folks. Don't
No, he's
put
that
them on
way.
too high a pedestal.
Coop was trying to point at you, but for me, he was pointing at Jane when you were saying dickheads. And
I also think you guys could also be named endless ranters. It would be inappropriate.
the favorite
That was,
part,
already, that was already taken though.
the best
I
parts of Two
know.
Grumpy Bastards, the best parts, the funniest parts, not intentionally, of Two Grumpy Bastards is towards the end when Coop's like, so Russ, we got one more topic here you wanted to cover. Do you want to save that for the next episode? And it's like, give me a break. He's like, no, I can get through that in about 20 minutes.
So
Did you just
Robbie
ask
is-
him?
Stay on target.
Robbie has coined our crossover episode as Grumpy Ranters here.
Grumpy
I think
Ranters.
Amen. There you go.
We're
like it.
like doubling down. All right. Well, thanks guys so much. This was really fun. I really enjoy talking to you. So hopefully we
Great talking to
can
y'all too.
do this again in a bit. So
Yeah, you
Yeah.
bet. We would love to
Unfortunately.
have you guys back on our neck of the woods too here in the not too distant future. So
yeah.
Is there anything else we need to know about Two Grumpy Bastards before we wrap it up?
Russ,
Just
do you
in
want to
case we
promote your
missed anything.
books?
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, well, for anyone who doesn't know, I write novels. I've written 5 novels, everything from paranormal fiction to political action to science fiction. I go by the name R.D. Meyer. My books are Akodama, Salvation Day, Wrongful Death, Schism, and Homecoming.
You'll find him if you just put that into Amazon.
It is
R.D.
put on
Meyer.
Amazon. I don't know how, somehow Schism, my book about a second American Civil War, is my biggest seller. It's my most popular, even though I think Salvation Day is my best written book. And one thing, if you like vampire stories, check out my first one. What I like to say is my vampires don't sparkle unless the human hero sets them on fire. So I turn vampires into monsters again. And that's my spiel. If y'all want to check them out, I'd be honored if you did.
Great.
Awesome. We'll post a
Thank
link
you.
too. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. And congratulations on the relatively new Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. So again, hope everybody enjoyed listening to this and goes back and listens again, because there's a lot of information, and I think we'll probably form maybe new questions for the next time we all get together. But until then, this is Chris saying, get it on.
Get
Your
it on.
turn.
Get it on.
Done.
There you go. Perfect, guys. All right. Great job.
All right. We're done recording. We're still on YouTube Live, just FYI. So
Yeah,
we
don't
could
say anything
probably-
too bad yet.
actually, we
So-
had there were a couple questions here. I thought maybe we could,
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you guys have a minute. So
Sure.
Monkey's uncle, do we know what Monkey's uncle is? No? Is that a
forget.
mystery?
I feel like I
Okay.
learn these
No.
things, then I forget them over and over.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, she asked, Tony, do you back the blue? If so, how do you propose paying their salaries? So I don't know what
fuck does that even mean?
I don't know. All right.
supposed to-
Sorry.
Am I
Monkey's
supposed to be
uncle,
Tony?
your question might be canceled. Yes, I would assume you're Tony. I don't know if anyone
Okay, yeah,
calls you
'cause-
that.
Yeah, I tell the story very famously when one of my exes introduced me to somebody she works with named Glenn, and she said, "Yeah, this is my boyfriend Anthony." And he goes, "Do you go by Tony?" And I go, "Do you go by Gla?" Did you get introduced to me that fucking way? I don't think so.
Did we just
Anyway,
lose somebody, by the way?
I do back the blue. Yes,
Danny.
I back the blue.
Okay.
I do. I'll just leave it at that.
I feel like you pay their salaries with tax money. That's kind of just how it goes.
I do
So-
bake sales all the time for the sheriff's department here. No, I don't do that.
Big
Striptease.
Oh, okay. So he,
I see.
she
Okay.
says because you're libertarian. So like, how do you reconcile that? Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, good. That's actually not a bad question. As I'm fond of saying, libertarians are not homogenous. I believe in limited government, roads, law enforcement, military, that kind of thing. So I got no problem paying for that. I do have problems paying for entitlement programs and other shit that doesn't work. So
The loaded question, Monkey's uncle. You know,
It sounds to me like
libertarians
they've
are
got-
afraid of paying taxes, afraid of
afraid.
It
Definitely
sounds to me like
afraid.
they've got libertarian confused with anarchist.
Taxophobe? Does that make me a taxophobe?
I don't know, but I could subscribe to that.
I don't know. For the most part, no. I'm fine paying. I'm fine paying reasonable and legitimate taxes. I'm fine with that. Libertarianism, I think, gets misconstrued as anarchism, and it's
Right.
not.
There is that branch. That is a fringe branch of
Yeah, the
libertarianism.
folks who were at the Libertarian Convention arguing over seatbelts and whether or not to legalize prostitution.
A lot of the libertarian things are like you have. Then it's a trade off. So it's like, okay, you're going to defund the police, have no police, but you're going to need to let me have all the weapons I want, right? And give me complete domain over my property. So it's not like
Yeah.
just defund the police and get rid of them for freedom. It's also, well, I'm going to need the freedom to, shoot a crackhead that walks on my lawn.
It's a contradiction in terms. To actually have freedom, you actually to have real freedom. You also need a sense of law and order, because otherwise the anarchists and criminals will come in and take your freedom from you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Monkey's uncle. Thank you for your questions. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Monkey's uncle also encourages us to realize that atheists do have a moral compass, and that you don't have to believe in
Bullshit!
morals.
Now you've gone too far,
But
Monkey's uncle.
yeah,
To me, here's my deal: an atheist moral compass is based on whatever they think is moral. They don't actually subscribe to an objective moral truth, because if you are not subscribing to an objective moral truth of a higher power, then you're making up whatever you think is moral, which I can say is whatever goes to my evolutionary advantage, which is why I think that that kind of thing breaks down.
yeah. That's
Jordan
I think that's fair.
Peterson. Jordan Peterson really brings this idea together of that biology. But then you get to this point where the divine and like the experiences people have that are very difficult to define biologically, that we just don't know about the human brain, and that that atheists may not realize that like a lot of these morality things they get are kind of from humans desire to try to find something divine or find some absolute truth or something.
Right.
So-
Like the reason I take issue with atheists isn't because they don't have a spiritual side. I think they have a spiritual side they are not tapping into, or that they're not realizing that is something that's innate in all humans.
Look at an objective moral truth would be don't steal from others. But if you want to look at it at a pure evolutionary advantage point of view, why would me and my tribe, for lack of a better term, not want to take something from someone else if we can that will improve our lives and our status? Because then my only duty, my only fealty is to my tribe, not to everyone else. And I think that's where a lot of moral subjectivism breaks down. Now, again, there's a lot of gray area in morality out there. I'm not talking about the way somebody dresses or the way, maybe you want to eat your food. I'm talking about, don't kill, except in self-defense or the defense of others. Don't rape. Don't take somebody's stuff. Those are, to me, absolute moral truths that I'm not sure can always be found without, some kind of a higher sense of purpose.
Hey, just to throw this in, coincidentally or not so, maybe Godwinkily, I was just the pod I was listening to when I was vacuuming out my car just before I hopped on was one of the biblical series of Jordan Peterson's, and it specifically was God in the Hierarchy of Authority. And what you were saying, Chris, where he ties the two together, he talks about hierarchy in the biological world and how that hierarchy evolved. And he gets in a lot of trouble for talking about hierarchies, but then he talks about how the intersection between that and the spiritual divine is also hierarchy, a spiritual sense of hierarchy or a social sense of hierarchy. And that doesn't mean somebody dominates somebody else, but how we figure out these various roles within, like Russ said, the tribe and the community and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny. I was just listening to that podcast right before we got on together.
Yeah, I've started listening. I've started watching that a few times. Trying to get into that 10 or it's like a 12 or so part series on YouTube also. But yeah, I think for me, it's like I'm willing to admit that I don't like to talk about these things in a I'm right, you're wrong way, because I think that in the end, like we're like people actually eventually come to agree on these things. So
yeah, well, the way I look at it, eventually we'll die and find out.
There you go.
Well, I mean, Jordan Peterson's idea is that heaven and hell it's not the afterlife. They exist now. They exist in your current being. And when you do something that's wrong, just to be broad, you kind of takes you down towards hell. Like when your life is in complete chaos, you're in hell. And
that's where you get into like I think a lot of like very broad strokes Christianity and like like organized religion, growing up in like a Baptist church, whatever, where they're talking about heaven as if it's this
the West
literally
is
like up in the clouds. Yeah, and it's not. It's like heaven and earth. It could be hell on earth. Like hell is like here, like right now. It's not burning.
The West
fire.
struggles with nuance. Americans struggle with nuance.
Well, but if you want to get really spiritual, start talking about stuff. Some of the pieces of my belief entail. Yes, there's certain chaotic, if you want to put the phrase hell on earth in your life, but the way I personally view it is either you chose that or those were circumstances you were put into prior to coming to this life in order to grow spiritually. I'm a big believer that earth's not our natural home, but it's not so black and white in terms of heaven and hell. There's a lot of stuff, especially that you choose into your own life or comes into your life. So it's the way I say it is, it's like, you practice, whatever sport you're playing, you practice so hard so that when you actually play the game, you're doing well. This is to train you to get better in what your true home is. That's just my belief. Someone else may believe something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The last church I went to I was going to say religiously, like routinely, like the pastor was, very, very educated. It wasn't like a fire and brimstone. It was, he had lots of letters and PhDs and doctor, all this stuff after his name, and would travel, and he knew all the ancient languages. So he would get into a lot. He would get into very much what you were saying, Russ, early on about, what did you say? It was like, it's more about illusion or what?
Illusion.
Illusion. Yeah. Like, he would get a lot into like, don't read what the King James says and like how you would normally read it in 1997 or whatever. Like think about like this has gone through a few different language translations.
I'm not sure they were using vowel back in Hebrew times.
Yeah, and trying to understand
thing.
Yeah, understanding the context of when this was written in the original language that did not have 8 billion words, in an urban dictionary. This is how they talked, and he would get pretty, get down into there about like, this is what scholars think they meant, and this is what some scholars think they didn't, like that there's not total agreement on it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that type of experience at church.
I love that. I love that he did that. One of my blessings in my life is my bachelor's degrees. I went to a Jesuit school. And we were talking about this with Command Sergeant Major Jimbo a couple of podcasts ago. Gonzaga University, you may have heard of it because they have a good basketball team. Mm-hmm. But it's a fantastic liberal arts college. And I had to take 4 semesters of religion. My very first one was Old Testament. And one of the most refreshing things ever was having an old Jesuit priest talk about the exigency. He really emphasized exigency. It's the meaning of the words to you that helps you follow your faith, not a literal meaning of the words, and lacking historical perspective of what those oral tradition that happened for thousands of years before it was actually codified. And I was really, really struck by that because I'm a kind of guy that believes that science and religion are the same thing. that they're not mutually exclusive. Like I love to say, is two things can be true at once.
Mhm.
And that was a awakening for me, going, oh, these Jesuits kind of get it. It's not about a literal interpretation. He would even say literalists are idiots, and miracles don't have to be miracles. They can be a natural occurrence that are miracles that had a huge, profound effect on humanity. And that's my philosophy exactly. And that was really nice to hear that out of the mouth of somebody wearing black robes and a white collar.
Yeah, Chris, if you're into that stuff, I really am not trying to make a self plug here. I think you really would.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Russ.
I really think you would enjoy Salvation Day.
That's the vampire one?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Salvation Day boiled down into this is much more simplistic than the plot actually is, but it's about a guy who tries to kill God. There's a lot more to it than that, obviously, but now it's a very emotional book. It's designed to evoke strong feelings, but I think you might really enjoy it if you took a chance to take it.
Oh, I didn't write it backwards.
No, well,
I saw it.
Yeah, Coop, do the words "blow me" mean anything in your language?
Below me.
Yeah. Thanks, Monkey's Uncle. Thanks for leading us on that path.
I do appreciate that.
Always plugging your book.
Well, that one to Chris.
Hold on. Is there an audiobook version, and is it in your voice? I hope not. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
No, there's not an audiobook version because I'm lazy.
You'd have Dawson read it.
Who?
No, Dawson, like Dawson.
Mike
the producer.
Dawson. Oh,
Mike
he's
Dawson
the guy with the deep voice, the smoker's voice.
My bad.
Two.
Okay, as long as you're not talking about like Richard Dawson.
No, he's dead. He's dead.
Yeah, I know. That's why it would be kind of difficult for him to read.
That's too bad. Hogan's Heroes.
Oh man, I grew up watching that show.
I did too, and it was only when I got older that I started thinking, let's see, who came up with the idea to make a comedy about a Nazi concentration camp?
I was like, those Nazis, they're not too bad. They're just kind of dumb and,
Right.
they're just kind of stupid. Yeah. Like,
Wasn't MASH also kind of a comedy? And
Kind of a comedy drama.
had a laugh track.
Korea, but there were actually some moments in MASH they tried to take themselves seriously.
I hate when sitcoms do that. Like it's like when the Webster episode when he was like, George, will I ever grow again?
Tonight on a very special episode of Growing Pains.
Yeah, like
technical foul. Webster, really? Wow.
Or there was different strokes when Arnold and his buddy and his redheaded buddy were getting finger banged by the old man or photographer.
What about the time when Arnold's little redheaded buddy got kidnapped?
Yeah,
that was later in the episodes, and they were trying to draw an audience. Coop, you need to go back and watch it.
Yeah,
he just wants us to come over and take our shirts off and take pictures.
Yeah, or the episode on different strokes about bulimia. Yeah, fun times.
There's Family Tie. Oh, go ahead.
The voiceover guy, when they would advertise those, like the couple of days before, the week before, it was always Thursday, a very powerful episode of Punky Brewster.
Family Ties, where Alex P. Keaton got hooked on speed for one day.
I love that one.
One day. Just one day.
I saw nothing wrong with that.
I'm too young for you guys.
Family Ties was awesome. That was back when Michael J. Fox was fun. He was playing
I love that
show.
The conservative. It was
the
kind of the
parents.
conservative on the show, but he wasn't completely written off.
Yeah,
I would say his acting sense has been kind of shaky. Whoa!
Oh, come on.
That's funny. All right, so I guess
Any more questions? It was Monkey's uncle, the only one that wanted to engage.
Now I'm thinking Monkey's uncle is Theo.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's
yourself.
hell-bent, hell-bent on us understanding his point of religion. But
I like Monkey's uncle. I like
he wants us to understand his point of religion. Maybe
that's a little panties in a bunch, a little much.
Sorry. I like him because he basically watches every one of our episodes and comments on it. So it's like
true.
Please
keep coming.
Super fan.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I like that discussion because I've gotten into Carl Jung recently and I'm exploring his books and ideas because he comes from it very empirically, like spiritual and with an empirical bend. And that makes my little logical, analytical brain. Very happy. So
But you should read What Dreams May Come by Richard Matheson.
what dreams may come. Okay.
Yeah, now it's a lot different than the movie. The movie with Robin Williams is a little bit more touchy feely, but Richard Matheson actually did some research on near death experiences and stuff, and Summerland before he wrote What Dreams May Come. It's not quite as analytical, but he tried to take a few more things out of it.
These are some cool book covers. I'm judging the
Richard
book. I'm
Matheson
judging
also-
your books by their cover.
I have a great cover artist, a guy named Carl Graves. He takes the ideas I have. I say, I'm kind of thinking about this. And he gives me a rendering that is just blows my expectations away.
Homecoming looks cool because I like space movies. It looks, I don't know if that's what it's about, but yeah.
Well, Homecoming is about humanity got kicked off of Earth about 6,000 years ago by a genocidal race of organic machines. They're trying to come back. And they actually retake the planet fairly easily, but it's about them discovering their own past. You know, it'd be like if we found out, George Washington or even say Jesus wasn't quite the pure heroic figure we thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
It delves into a lot of the mythology behind what led to their escape from Earth, and then having to reconcile themselves with maybe they weren't quite as heroic as they thought they were.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept because those are certain things that if you're a believer or not, like you kind of like a lot of things are based on that. And then when those things get flipped upside down, it's hard to reconcile.
Homecoming is also written in the format of a journal. In the book, there's a historian that's accompanying the Liberation Fleet back to Earth, and he's writing things basically post tense in a journal that he plans to publish as a historical textbook.
Cool. That'd make a good movie.
I think all my things would make a good movie. I really think Hollywood should come and give me millions of dollars to make my stuff into movies.
No joke.
We need some original material out there.
Once the Marvel universe, once they run out of comic book heroes, then
or once they start doing what they're doing now with all the injection of the social justice bullshit.
Yeah, people are gonna get tired of it. They have to.
Well, nobody seems to remember that the Marvel comics went this route in the 90s, and they almost bankrupted themselves. That's why they had to sell off their franchises, X-Men, Spider-Man, all that kind of stuff, because they were making no money because everyone stopped reading their comic books because they went through this stupid period of preaching at everybody.
Oh, by the way, have you folks caught It's My Favorite Tom Clancy Book Without Remorse on Amazon Prime?
I watched it I think I watched it yesterday, actually. Yeah.
If I hadn't read the book, I probably would have enjoyed the movie because I like Michael B. Jordan, but they just ruined that character forever for me because John Clark was my favorite character in the Clancy verse by far.
It looks like they're going to make another one. I made the mistake of reading a review of it that wasn't very flattering before I watched it. Yeah.
It was fine for what it was.
Let me name drop.
I like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna name drop a little bit here. Tom Clancy. I know he's dead. You shouldn't speak ill of the dead. I met him once. Great writer, but possibly the single most arrogant man I have ever met in person.
I have a story.
Really?
I have an in-person story as well for Tom Clancy. Yep.
You're lacking mirrors in your house, apparently, Russ.
Although he makes me look like a humble friar. I mean,
some people are just meant to be creative geniuses and then not interact with people.
He came out to Fort Irwin, the National Training Center, to give us a talk, and as we're talking, he's like, "Oh yeah, I can maneuver these forces like this. Yeah, you just do this and this, take command of everything. I'd be awesome at it." And he was serious. He wasn't trying to like puff it out. He was serious that he thought that he could maneuver all this stuff. And he has a great knack for telling stories of maneuver warfare without understanding all the logistical and deep strike stuff that goes into maneuver warfare.
Sure.
It was kind of funny to listen to.
Interesting. What's your story, Chris?
He came to my high school and spoke in front of all the students and then answered some questions. And we had an ancient history teacher who was not teaching ancient history. He was just ancient. He was just old as hell. Right. So he asked a question that was pretty innocuous. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, Tom Clancy was just a real asshole to him. Just like just made him look like an asshole, like just really was condescending to him and was like, that's a stupid question. Something to that effect, to where like the entire school was like, oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, he was just a dick. And he wears the,
Sorry to hear that.
when anybody wears the because I've enjoyed all his movies, but anybody wears like the prescription glasses that are sunglasses inside, like
Yep.
that's like, you lose a few points right there already, where he wore the dark glasses inside while he was speaking. So but
I'm
yeah,
guilty of that myself, but my Oakley blades look badass, so I'm okay.
but yeah, that was I don't ever forget that. Yeah,
It's an eye opener. It's good to know that we've had similar experiences, or at
Yeah.
least on the same level.
But it's like the guy's obviously the master of his craft. So
He died several years back, though, if I remember right.
Yeah, he did. What I thought about Clancy is he started off with a bang with The Hunt for Red October, which is a gorgeous book and a really great movie. And then he just got really drawn out and stupid towards the end. Like, what was the one, the dragon and the bear or whatever it was, where China and Russia go to war over gold fields in Siberia. And it was like 900 pages of nothing. And the last 30 pages were the actual engagement where the Russians and the Chinese fight. I don't know if he's going a little bit senile or what, but yeah, his storytelling got kind of bad. It was not pithy towards the end. Dragon, I can't remember what it was. Hey, by the way, Russ, are we still podding tonight?
That's a good question.
Yeah, we better let you guys go so you can.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It's up to you. I'm good. It's only 3:30 my time out here on the left coast. So
we probably need to. Yeah, Tom Clancy died on October 1st, 2013. We probably, if we can suspend to tomorrow. I'm only thinking that because I promised my wife I'd go out to help her pick up this chair at 6:30 my time, so that would leave us less than an hour of podcasting. Unless you think we could fit.
No,
that
it's
in.
no problem. We can hit it tomorrow. Might be a little bit later, but
That's fine. Let's see if we can hit it tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, thanks guys for hanging so long with us. And, and
no, thank you.
You are the reason we're not potting tonight.
Yeah, sorry to your listeners. Sorry. Yeah.
Save some bloody ears. That's all
Monkey's
right.
uncle went purry, by the way, and then he retracted for a second.
he
He was like, Jane, when does swimsuit season start? And then now it says message retracted.
Wow.
What are you retracting messages for?
Look,
Let it roll, Monkey's
I think
uncle.
we're gonna rename you Monkey's aunt.
Oh, ant. That reminds me. What is the whole you painted over ants thing in your intro? Because you said you were gonna get to that. And then I don't know if you did.
We're gonna have to address that on the next pod. That involves my wife and my former home in Sacramento when I taught RTC there. Sherry can tell the story much better. Plus,
she said that's not from a movie. She said that.
She said that. And
I was
lost his mind.
I was there. I was
it-
there, and my California girl and I heard it for the first time. Yes, so it's a very funny story.
So it's very organic. That's great.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I got to get Sherry to tell it in her voice because she's got a Southern accent and she gets very animated about it, and so she does it right. I won't be able to do it justice right now.
Funny. I thought it was from a movie, and you were going to say it's from Monty Python, something. One of the
No,
something like that.
this-
It's actually
This is something
that's
with
actually Sherry's voice that I put in there. So that's her
Okay.
actually saying it, and it's actually awesome. Russ and I have been saying that back and forth since that night. I think it was like we invited you over for Christmas or Christmas libations, and that's when she told us the story, and it's been awesome ever since.
So,
But we're gonna
okay.
hit that in our next pod.
Yep.
All right. Quick question. Who is the you she refers to?
She
says, doesn't she say you painted over ants?
No, she said they painted over ants.
Oh, it's
painted
they.
over
Okay.
And the they involved the former owners of the home that I bought.
I have an ant problem, and I can picture this.
So I know you're both smart, so you know that we use that as a metaphor for you're not doing a good job, or
Right.
Extremely lazy.
right.
that kind of thing. Yes.
It's
It's like when you
that's
paint the line,
hilarious.
the street, and the roads. You paint the lane lines over roadkill.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Or,
very
yeah,
similar
when the manhole cover that gets put down but not straightened out. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's yes.
Yeah, very, very similar train of thought.
Okay.
I'm gonna write that down on our script, Russ. So remember to ask you about that tomorrow.
Yeah, well, let me make sure I talk to Sherry about it because she may not want to come on. She's, I had to convince her to just give us the quote anyway, because she doesn't want to be famous, I guess. But if I can convince her to come on our podcast and tell the story, I will. Otherwise, I'll do it and butcher it.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'll interview her, so we'll get the story out.
I don't know why. It really makes me laugh.
It's also the voice she used when
They
she said
painted over ants.
Yeah, well, it was a lot
Something
more.
like that.
It was a lot more southern drawl than that when the story first came out. I thought Coop was never going to stop laughing.
Oh my god! And I used to do that. I used to ambush Russ with it, like when he was like in the hallway or something, or heading to the gym, and he didn't know I was behind him, and I'd go, "They painted over ants."
Well, do you remember that there was another one that she did when we were over at Jimbo's for dinner that one night, and she's like, "Don't be getting your sauce in my bread."
That's just I'm gonna be thinking about that because even from like the ants perspective, like, come on, like you couldn't just brush me out of the way first, like you lazy piece of shit human.
Isn't that crazy?
Pretty much.
I've been wanting to tell you guys this real quick. This is a little Russ story, a vignette, but I called. It was late one night. It was like 9 o'clock or something. I needed to get a hold of him for something going on. I was the battalion XO then, so I was doing a lot of administrative paperwork and crap, and I needed to call him for some teaching stuff. I can't remember. Sherry answers the phone, and she, Russ, I think you were in your master's program, your MBA program then, and you were in school late. And I said, yeah, I said, I'm going to be up for a couple hours. Could you just have him call me as soon as he walks in? I do need to talk to him before tomorrow. And she goes, okay, I tell you what, I'll put a Post-it on the Kool-Aid. That way he'll see it. Kool-Aid?
Yes,
Who over the age of 8 drinks Kool-Aid?
I used, and to be honest, until I want to say it was 2012, I used to drink Kool-Aid religiously. Orange, black cherry, or lime. It was like a comfort food. It's what I grew up drinking, so I kept doing it. But it was also about 1,000 calories. And when I went to the Philippines for the Balakatan exercise in 2012, I quit cold turkey, and I haven't drank Kool-Aid since.
I'm not sure if that's worse or Diet Coke, Diet Coke. That shit, I cannot.
I drink water during the week. I'd save my soda for the weekend.
Oh, okay. But you had there's some early episode where you had your thing about soda. Did you quit? What is it?
What was that? Oh,
you had
caffeine.
Was it caffeine? So Diet Coke? Were you?
No, it was Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew. That was it. Oh, that's right. And I thought in my head, like, oh, Adam, that's your disagree with Adam point, because he shits on people who drink Mountain Dew specifically.
Well, I drank Mountain Dew because out on the West Coast I couldn't get Mellow Yellow, and Mellow Yellow is a more sweet version of Mountain Dew.
Oh my
God.
Man.
Cold trickle.
It just gets worse.
I love the sweet drinks. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy them.
Yellow.
But
you're cutting years off your life.
So I'm gonna die one day anyway. I might as well die happy.
Yeah.
Hey, raw beef.
Yeah, raw beef. Yeah,
it's good, tasty, and it'll be healthy as long as it doesn't kill you.
You know, it was probably a couple of fat, overweight smokers that discovered a jogger died of a heart attack or something. I mean, when you're gonna die, you're gonna die.
Yeah. It's true. It's very genetic.
You can get killed walking your doggy. That's what Al Pacino says.
Killed walking your doggy. That was in Heat.
Yeah, I look for it when I think of that, and I look for like there needs to be like a meme or something of that. But yeah, I'm glad you recognize that, because I think of that quote all the time on the health talk. It's like
Heat's one of my favorite movies, and just to put myself out there and give y'all more reason to laugh at me. For breakfast, my go-to beverage if I'm at a restaurant, not at home. At home, I'll drink orange juice, Minute Maid, whatever. But if I'm at a restaurant, my go-to beverage is chocolate milk. I remember my buddy Baja, who's now a general in the Air Force. We were at Command General Staff College. We all went out for like a breakfast class one day, and he gave me so much shit. He's like, "You're gonna pour that on your Fruity Pebbles?" But
like,
again, I was an infantryman in a class full of folks who were not infantrymen, so I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's like, I like a glass of chocolate milk. Oh, your kids are coming in? No,
it's for me.
No, yeah, it's me.
Yeah, back in my sugar days, I was a big fan of chocolate milk. And I would do get regular milk and pour the Hershey syrup in it so I could control how much there's in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love doing that. I'll pour the dark chocolate syrup in there, a bunch of it. If I get just in the mood for it. It doesn't happen often, but if something happens and I'm in the mood for it, I'll get a shitload of stuff in there, stir it up. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Also fat.
Yeah, I miss those days. I gave
They
up
still
sugar,
have the strawberry flavored Nestle's Quick with the bunny on it.
Yeah, but strawberry flavored Quick is for pussies.
Hey, Hey, shut up. My 5-year-old self could have cleaned your clocks, sir.
Okay. I ain't 5 anymore. A lot of people could clean my clock when I was 5.
This is the whole reason Russ learned how to use guns. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. Going back to the 10 and 20 year reunions as a combat vet that was 70 pounds heavier, most of it in upper body muscle, was a lot of fun.
What do you mean?
You're so hot.
Well, again, I was the chess club captain, wrote for the school newspaper Geek.
Oh, to your high school reunion.
High school reunion.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then
Okay.
you go back as an airborne ranger.
Yeah.
It people kind of do a double take towards you.
Yeah. Okay. I get that now. I didn't understand what you said at first, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, now with Facebook, if you're Facebook friends with everyone, then
I'm Facebook friends with some of them, but there's a lot of folks that come. You get the suggested friend suggestions. I'm thinking I didn't like this fucker when I knew him in high school. Why am I going to friend him now?
Yeah.
Right,
It was a weird thing with Facebook when you'd get friend invitations from people that you just you hated in high school. Like I guess they got over it. I'm not over it.
I mean, I have a little bit more tact than to say it out loud, but I'll see where somebody has passed on. I'll be like, okay, I didn't like them.
you're like, all right.
I have enough couth to keep that
Moving
to myself
on.
and not say, hey, Mr. XYZ, whoever you are, I don't do that. That would be unintentionally hurtful. But
you tell it to your friends later.
Right.
You don't say it in the moment. You just say it later. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. There's times I'm petty, and then I try to check myself and say, no, that's not right. Save cheering death for like Bin Laden getting shot in the face, or Pol Pot, getting strung up, or Stalin crapping himself in his sleep.
Yep, that's true. They deserve it. Oh boy.
Yeah. Good
Oh,
stuff.
guys, you better go get that ottoman, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's an ottoman and a chair for $20?
That's a hell of a deal.
A leather chair, leather ottoman.
Hell of a deal. Hey, I really appreciate you guys putting us on again. Sorry about some of the
course.
off the rail stuff, but it was a lot of fun.
No, everything was perfect,
Really
man.
appreciate
Yeah. And then
Yeah, I
let us
think-
know when you have questions about the tech stuff. Although I don't know if we're not that tech savvy. This is pretty easy though.
Yeah. Some of that and some of the other, I know what the guidelines are, but see what kind of problems you guys are running into, that kind of thing. So
I just say seeing all these really cool microphones y'all have makes me feel like a technological Neanderthal.
no, I know.
Mao.
I mean, the
Yeah.
Yeah,
boom
look, you got to get one of these. It looks cool.
and-
no.
Cool.
I've got my snowball.
I just need a ring light now. This is good when we're in the middle of the day. I've got this natural light, but when we record in the evening, I don't know. I don't have
This is
a
weird.
good
Just get
Because-
a black light.
a black
A
light.
hell of an
Yeah,
idea.
just do it under black light.
That's a really good
Oh,
idea. I
because
think-
it'll. I wonder what that would.
It sounds goofy, and that's so I was just
I'll wear a
going with
white.
an
I'll wear a
off-
white shirt for it.
dude, I'm totally going to do that.
I like how you said that with the eyes
I'll rub
bugging.
like formula all over me and just do it shirtless.
No, please don't. But just don't.
Come on. You want to see my tats and my nice big old, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? The two pictures of you guys on your podcast thumbnail. They're a little confusing because I'm like, hold on, which is which? Because I knew
Yeah.
what Coop kind of looked like from just in Facebook or whatever in the
Right.
Agricola group. But yeah, I was like, okay, that's back at a different time for these two dudes.
Man,
that's-
it wasn't that far off. I always grow my Viking beard every winter because it's cold as fuck
Okay.
up here, and I just like to do it for something different.
And-
And so it wasn't. And then I was trying to kind of do the art so that it kind of spelled out the difference in our stature. And I think it effectively communicates it.
You did, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
his,
then,
his smugness. Yes.
yeah, my picture was taken by my wife for the back cover photo of my first book, and it does kind of convey the amusement / arrogance that I have. It's also my LinkedIn photo.
Yeah, Chris, we need to do our art. We need to get our artwork.
Yeah, we need to do new artwork.
We have like
Yeah.
I spent like an hour on our, our little makeshift interim logo. So I'm like, I'm not the person for that, but
Get my daughter to draw you something. My daughter draws anime, Japanese anime. So maybe
no.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad Manny's
Manny-
gone because
Manny
he would
is
be.
super. Manny
He's
is
really
super
into anime.
big time.
Yeah. So is my oldest. I think my oldest was reincarnated from somebody in Japan because she loves everything Japanese, even though she was born in California.
That's part of his podcast. He does a podcast called How We Figure, I think, and they cover anime a lot. And yeah, they get into that stuff.
Oh,
so.
Rachel loves that stuff.
Yeah, but Manny has a fetish. This isn't.
Are we talking about?
I
Like
think
we're like
I think we're talking fetish here. I don't
we're
think.
talking about fetish to the point where like pulling little girls' undies out of vending machines in Japan kind of fetish.
I
Not
wouldn't put
that
it past
far.
him if the opportunity arose, though. Would
How
sorry,
old
Manny's
is your
not here to
daughter,
defend
if you-
himself. So
Oh,
I
Oh,
feel
now
kinda
she's
bad.
15.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. He's a grown man.
Yeah. No. What are you doing?
I just
Okay.
Oh, there we
throwing
go.
out-
He's like, that's Coop when someone gives him the finger in traffic.
Exactly.
I will snap your neck like a chicken.
Yeah, and that's the picture of me on the back of my books. And to be fair, that's one of the best smiles you're going to get from me in a picture. If I try to smile in a picture, I look like a complete psychopath. I cannot smile unless it's a natural smile. I cannot smile on command in a picture to save my life. I look like.
Oh,
Am
you're
I-
being hard on yourself.
No, I'm really not. I look. Let's put it this way: for the Army board, you're supposed to have a DA photo for one of the last ones. I had to get a DA photo. I actually, and I'm not shitting you, I practiced smiling in the mirror, and then I lost it because I can't keep that.
Yeah.
I thought you guys would appreciate the logo I designed for my fantasy baseball team.
Hipster killer. Nice. Oh yeah, that's
I
yeah.
approve.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Yeah,
gotta
my ears
pee.
are
I've-
sweating.
My
Yeah.
bladder's exploding soon.
My soul is in anguish, so I better go, guys.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'm good because I'm just awesome like that.
Okay, I'd rather do this than go get an ottoman and chair.
Yeah,
me
well,
too.
My wife's got to come back first. She went out to go grab groceries. When she gets back, we'll go get the ottoman.
All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Talk to y'all soon.
Later.
Thanks again,
Thanks for
guys.
joining us
Yeah.
on YouTube,
I'm going
everyone.
to put out a little promo tonight since we're not potting, just like a little 1-minute promo talking about this
Cool.
and sending people over to your podcast. So
Oh, thanks,
just to
man.
let you know.
Awesome.
You bet.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.